Chapter 2040. I've let fellow Taoist Xiao see a joke. Hua Furong held the summoning talisman in her hand and said to Xiao Hua very apologetically, "My Blazing Fire Mountain's rules are strict, but I can't bear it," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Hua is so kind. How could you be wrong? I actually feel that this is very heartwarming." Hua Furong was very happy and said with a smile, "I'm already satisfied that fellow Taoist Xiao doesn't see a joke. I'm a bit arrogant with such praise." Seeing Hua Furong restraining her temper and talking to Xiao Hua, the group of children was curious and looked at Xiao Hua without blinking. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, little sister Shui, please," Hua Furong said and led Xiao Hua and Shui into the courtyard. Behind the courtyard was a restriction. Although there was a bead curtain, it wasn't a screen wall but a spacious corridor behind the bead curtain. The corridor was quite peaceful and didn't seem to be chaotic. Just as Hua Furong stepped into the corridor, she saw a person walking quickly from the other end of the corridor. As soon as he saw Hua Furong, he shouted, "Furong, when did grandfather call me? How could you lie to big brother?" Xiao Hua frowned. Wasn't this person the Fire Qilin? What a coincidence. Just as he stepped into the Blazing Fire Mountain's immortal cave, he immediately ran into the person he didn't want to see the most. "Oh, fellow Taoist Shui." Xiao Hua and Shui also turned into the corridor and were immediately seen by the Fire Qilin. How could the Fire Qilin still have time to complain about Hua Furong? His face was full of surprise, and he quickly walked over and bowed very seriously. A few days without seeing fellow Taoist Shui is like 3 years. Cough cough, Xiao Hua took a step forward and blocked the somewhat embarrassed Shui behind him. He cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Hua, we seem to have just met yesterday, right? How many days have we not seen each other?" "Is that so?" The Fire Qilin only glanced at Xiao Hua and immediately looked at Shui. "I've always been with fellow Taoist Shui. Although we haven't seen each other for a day, it feels like we haven't seen each other for several days." Shui was greatly embarrassed and said in a low voice, "Senior Hua, be careful with your words. When have I been with you all this time?" "Why not?" The Fire Qilin was somewhat anxious. He pointed at Fire Hibiscus and said, "Hasn't fellow Taoist Shui been with I and Hibiscus for the past 100 days? Shui breathed a sigh of relief and glanced at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua saw that the Fire Qilin only had eyes for Shui and was truly speechless. If the Fire Qilin had made any moves, Xiao Hua could have used it as a pretext to make a fuss, or even leave in a huff. But this guy had the appearance of an infatuated child, and didn't even say a single unreasonable word. Xiao Hua really didn't know what to do. "Fellow Taoist Hua," Xiao Hua smiled. He held Shui's hand and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Hua, my humble junior sister was taken care of by the 2 fellow Taoists Hua. This Xiao is very grateful. Today, I specially came to your esteemed residence to thank you. It's nothing. Fellow Taoist Shui's appearance is like a celestial being, and her character is noble and pure. She's just like a true immortal that has been banished to the mortal world. We mortals have to protect her with our lives." The Fire Qilin didn't have Xiao Hua in its eyes at all. It only stared at Shui as it spoke with sincerity. "Cousin." At the side, Hua Furong had an awkward expression. She managed to get the Fire Qilin to come back with great difficulty. She didn't expect that she would bump into them the moment she returned to the Immortal's cave. Moreover, she was very clear about the relationship between Shui and Xiao Hua. Naturally, she also talked to the Fire Qilin in detail. Unfortunately, the Fire Qilin didn't listen at all. She was also helpless. "Great-grandfather wants to see fellow Taoist Xiao. We should hurry and go in," Hua Furong reminded. Then let fellow Taoist Xiao go in. Why does fellow Taoist Shui have to follow?" The Fire Qilin was stunned. "Great-grandfather is entertaining those snobbish people. What fun is there inside? Fellow Taoist Shui might as well go with Furong to see the lovely flowers. Right now they should be blooming. It's the most gorgeous time. Senior Hua, Junior wants to accompany senior brother in. If you don't want to go, you can admire the lovely flowers by yourself." Shui leaned her body against Xiao Hua and smiled apologetically. "Oh, since that's the case, I will also accompany fellow Taoist Shui in." Although the Fire Qilin was disappointed, it still smiled. Damn it! Xiaohua almost wanted to use his hand to slap his forehead. At this moment, an amiable voice resounded. Furong Qilin? Who are the two of you talking to? Hua Furong's face reddened. She promptly smiled and said, Great-grandfather, what are you saying? Didn't you ask the boy to invite fellow Taoist Xiao here? Oh, Xiaohua, I know. Let this child come in quickly. The voice was slightly stunned, but it was still amiable. Hua Furong's face showed an apologetic expression. Fellow Taoist Xiao, you see great-grandfather is also old. I reckon that he drank a lot of spiritual wine last night. He even forgot what he said just now. It's fine, Xiaohua smiled and said. I reckon that right now, the banquet is full of nascent soul and golden core seniors. I'm already satisfied to be able to see Elder Hua. And fellow Taoist, please. As Hua Furong spoke, she glanced at the fire Qilin. That guy's gaze was still on Shueshue's face. He didn't have the awareness of being a senior and leading the way at the front. Without any other choice, Hua Furong could only lead Xiaohua and Shueshue. The fire Qilin followed behind them and walked through the long corridor. As soon as Xiaohua and the others turned around the long corridor, their eyes immediately lit up. A burst of music filled their ears. They saw that this was a hall that was several hundred feet in size. The decorations were extremely gorgeous, and all kinds of strange patterns covered the entire hall. Even the floor was paved with huge pieces of spirit stones. On top of the spirit stones, Xiaohua first saw a dozen or so beautiful smiling female cultivators with graceful waists. Each and every one of these female cultivators wore strange clothes. Most of their snow-white skin was exposed, and their arms and legs were casually dancing. Their limbs exuded a kind of lazy feeling. After Xiaohua's gaze paused for a moment between these dancers, he looked at his surroundings again. Around him were some jade tables that cultivators often used to entertain guests. At this time, they were divided into 3 places. There were 5 tables at the head, and there were 5 tables at the left and right sides. Behind the table at the center of the head was a tall nascent soul cultivator, wearing a fiery red Taoist robe. This cultivator's face was very strange. His forehead was bulging, his nose was sunken, his mouth was bloody, and his ears were strangely small. His entire face was very similar to Hua Hibiscus and Hua Qilin. Behind his left hand was a nascent soul cultivator's table, and behind his right hand was a nascent soul cultivator's table. There were also 2 nascent soul cultivators wearing fiery red Taoist robes. They looked almost exactly the same as him. No wonder. When Xiaohua saw the appearance of the 3 people, he immediately understood. Previously, he had suspected that Hua Hibiscus also knew a secret technique to deceive the world like him, and could change her appearance like Wuxia. Now, it seemed that this was her true appearance. Seeing Xiaohua's group of 4 enter, everyone in the main hall very naturally swept their divine senses over them. There was no need to mention Hua Hibiscus and Hua Qilin. Their faces were their signature. Who didn't know them? They swept their divine senses over Xiaohua and Shueshue a few times. However, when they saw that they were Foundation Establishment and Qi Refining disciples, they withdrew their divine senses. Only the Foundation Establishment cultivator on the right had a shocked expression on his face. Naturally, the one sitting in the center was the eldest of the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain, Hua Zhishan. However, even though he was called the eldest, he wasn't that big of a deal. The second elder, Hua Yishui, and the third elder, Hua Picong, followed closely behind him. They were the triplets' twin brothers. Since young, these triplets' minds were connected and their aptitudes were the same. Among the disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain, they were known as geniuses. And the most interesting thing was that these 3 people's cultivation advancement was also the same. Their breakthroughs in Foundation Establishment, Gold Core, and Nascent Soul realms were definitely not more than 10 days apart. In the country of Xi, the Ardent Fire Mountain was neither big nor small. It was precisely because of these 3 brothers that their strength was ranked very high. The most amazing thing was that in the present day, when the ancient formations had been lost, the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain somehow managed to obtain a combination of 3 people. The 3 of them together could fight against 6 nascent soul cultivators. With this, the reputation of the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain became even more resounding in the country of Xi. After the group of dancers retreated, Hua Furong brought Xiaohua and Shueshue to the front. She bowed and said, "Great-grandfather, this is the Xiaohua that the boy often mentioned to you. It was fellow Taoist Xiao who saved the boy from the evil clutches of the heavenly demon sect that day." Junior's Imperial Thunder Sects Xiaohua and Shueshue greet Senior Hua. Xiaohua didn't dare to neglect and pulled Shueshue forward to greet him. "Get up." Hua Zhishan smiled. The pockmarks on his face became even brighter. With a wave of his hand, a great force stopped Xiaohua and Shueshue's figures. He smiled and said, "Who is your master? Is it someone this old man knows?" Junior's master is Thunderclap Palace's helplessness. Xiaohua smiled apologetically. "I'm afraid Senior Hua doesn't know." Junior's master is Thunderclap Palace's Sun Ming. Shueshue also said, "Oh, Thunderclap Palace's Thunderclap spiritual master. This old man has heard of him but has never seen him before." Hua Zhishan smiled. "Fellow Taoist helplessness, I really don't know him. What is his cultivation level?" Junior's master is at the late stage of foundation establishment. Xiaohua carefully said, "Only at the late stage of foundation establishment?" Hua Zhishan on the left shouted. "No wonder this old man was pondering just now. All right, Senior Hua knows. Junior has also just reached foundation establishment. Master? Of course it's impossible for him to be at Golden Core." Xiaohua bitterly smiled. Since ancient times, don't ask about a hero's origin. As long as you have cultivation and strength, who cares about your origin? Another Hua Zhishan said, "You saved our Furong, so you have fate with our Ardent Fire Mountain. Come, arrange a seat for Xiaohua." "Yes," the distant Ardent Fire Mountain disciple replied, placing a table at the end of the left and placing spirit wine, spirit fruits and other things on it. At this time Hua Zhishan smiled. Come Xiaohua, greet the 2 seniors beside this old man." As he spoke he pointed to the left. "This is Lanli Sec's Xian Yunzi." Xiaohua understood Hua Zhishan's meaning and quickly stepped forward, bowing deeply. "Junior Xiaohua greets Senior Xian Yunzi." Xian Yunzi slightly nodded, ignoring him. Hua Zhishan smiled. "Fellow Taoist Xian Yunzi, if you meet Xiaohua in the future, please take care of him for this old man's sake." Chapter 2041. Well said. Xian Yunzi nodded again. Xiaohua didn't dare to neglect Xian Yunzi and said happily, "Thank you Senior Xian Yunzi." This is Huangdao Sec's Taoist Shuemo, the nascent soul cultivator on Hua Zhishan's right smiled. "Taoist Shuemo, please take care of him in the future." Junior Xiaohua greets Senior Shuemo. Xiaohua bowed again. Get up." Taoist Shuemo waved his hand. Imperial Thunder Sect is a big sect, not something Ardent Fire Mountain, Bluely Sect, and Huangdao Sect can compare to. Xiaohua is just a junior. Although he has Imperial Thunder Sect's background, there will always be times when he meets difficulties. If you 2 fellow Taoists can meet him, it will be as easy as lifting a hand. Hua Zhishan smiled and raised his cup. "Come fellow Taoists, please." "Please." Xian Yunzi and Taoist Shuemo raised their cups and said. Xiaohua was quite surprised to see Hua Shrouded Mountain talking to the 2 nascent soul cultivators. He thought it would be great if he could meet the 2 nascent soul cultivators and report their names. Who would have thought it would be like this? Hua Zhishan must love this junior named Hua Furong very much. Unfortunately, Xiaohua didn't see Hua Furong's shocked expression, or he would be even more surprised. When Hua Zhishan and the others put down their cups, a mid-gold core cultivator on the left stood up. "It was Lanli Sec's by you." He smiled and said, "Junior congratulates Senior Hua's nephew for being able to escape from Heavenly Demon Sect's evil hands. However, after listening to what Senior Hua said just now, I don't understand." "Oh, does nephew have any questions?" Hua Zhishan looked at Xian Yunzi and asked Baiyu. Baiyu said, "Junior has a disciple who just entered foundation establishment. However, in this junior's opinion, this junior's disciple's cultivation is even inferior to Ardent Fire Mountain's Hua Furong. Furthermore, Xiaohua just said that he had also just built his foundation. How could he possibly save Hua Furong? Moreover, according to Elder Hua, Heavenly Demon Sect has 3 foundation establishment cultivators. Xiaohua also has a Qi refinement junior sister, He. How could he save Hua Furong? It would be good enough if he didn't run away, right? Bai Yu said again. If Xiaohua and his junior sister saved Hua Furong, then turned around and left, then Junior would not have anything to suspect. Moreover, he only came to Haoming City to look for Senior Hua after nearly a year with Junior sister. Senior Hua has to be on guard against Xiaohua and Shue's intentions. Senior Bai, what do you mean by this? Before Xiaohua could speak, the fire Qilin walked over from behind Shue and said with a frown, Fellow Taoist Shue came to Haoming City with Furong several months ago. How could it be like what you said? Besides, with fellow Taoist Shue's character, why would he do such a dirty thing? Bai Yu was slightly startled. Then he smiled and said, I don't know the details. I only heard Elder Hua asking about the whereabouts of the Heavenly Demon Sect. Only then did I know about this. I'm just stating facts. I'm somewhat doubtful about Xiaohua's cultivation. That's just a wild guess. Fellow Taoist Shue would never do that. The fire Qilin retorted without hesitation. Qilin, Hua Pakong stopped him. Bai Yue is your senior, you can't be so rude. Besides, you're usually rather refined. Why are you so reckless today? He can talk about anyone, but he can't talk about fellow Taoist Shue. The fire Qilin said stiffly. You child. Hua Paishui smiled. Bai Yue is just reminding you. It's nothing. Even reminding is not allowed. Damn it. Xiaohua had a good impression of the fire Qilin. This guy seems to be somewhat infatuated. Even I feel ashamed of my inferiority. Hua Paishui was somewhat helpless. He knew the fire Qilin's temper. He could only smile and point at the table. Furong, accompany Shue to rest over there. Yes. Hua Furong didn't dare to disobey. She glanced at Bai Yu and said, At that time, I was captured by the Heavenly Demon Sect disciples, and was unconscious. When I woke up, there was only Xiaohua and Shue beside me. The 3 demons had already been executed. It was Xiaohua who did it. How can I be wrong? After that, she didn't speak anymore. She pulled Shue's hand and walked towards the table. The fire Qilin naturally didn't hesitate to follow. Only Xiaohua stood there. When Furong told me about this matter, I was also shocked. First, I had only heard of the Heavenly Demon Sect's name, and didn't know the details. Therefore, I just wanted to ask my fellow Taoists about their knowledge. Second, Heavenly Demon Sect actually dared to make a move on my Ardent Fire Mountain's direct disciple. It can be said that their ambition is truly hateful. Third, I didn't believe what Bai Yu said just now. An early-stage foundation establishment cultivator can kill 3 cultivators of the same level. Hua Paishui smiled. However, after I carefully thought about it and made some inquiries, I found out that the Heavenly Demon Sect is made up of devil cultivators. In addition, their foundation establishment cultivators can't compare to our foundation establishment cultivators. Moreover, Xiaohua is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Their lightning cultivation method is the nemesis of devil cultivators. Since Senior Hua said so, this junior can't say anything. Bai Yu smiled. This junior is only reminding you as an outsider. Don't fall into the trap of others. Even if it's a famous sect, there are still some direct disciples who can't do such dirty things. Ha ha ha, seeing Bai Yu sit down, Hua Paishui laughed. Many thanks for Blue Li Sect's fellow Taoist concern. My Ardent Fire Mountain naturally knows the severity of this matter. In fact, Furong has already said that it was because she was careless. It seems that she knew that loose cultivator in the past. Therefore she fell into the trap. If it was a normal time, those 3 cultivators might not be able to catch her. Then he said to Xiaohua, Xiaohua, tell me what happened that day. After all, Furong was unconscious at that time and didn't see it. Yes. This junior doesn't dare to disobey. Xiaohua knew that when he came here, he would definitely be asked about the process. He had already thought about it. Anyway, there were no secrets, only the Samadhi True Fire. As a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, knowing the Samadhi True Fire, it wasn't too strange. Thus, Xiaohua recounted everything that had happened. You know the Samadhi True Fire? Hua Zhishan's face revealed a happy expression. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and nodded. Good, Senior Hua knows. If it wasn't for the Samadhi True Fire, this junior would have fallen into the hands of the heavenly demon sect. Xiaohua felt that it was inappropriate. He regretted not changing the Samadhi True Fire to the Thunder Palm. But really, how could the Thunder Palm defeat cultivators of the same level? Show it to me. Hua Zhishan laughed. This Xiaohua said embarrassedly. Ardent Fire Mountain is a sect that controls fire. This junior shouldn't reveal this little bit of pettiness, right? Chapter 2042. Good boy, you're quite generous. Xian Yunzi of the Bluely sect mocked. I'm not proficient in Samadhi True Fire, and you say it's petty. Junior doesn't dare. Junior. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. No matter, show it to me. Hua Paokong smiled. Everyone here is your senior, what's there to be afraid of? Yes. When Xiaohua heard this, he could only brace himself and open his hand. An inch-long Samadhi True Fire appeared in his palm. See. Seeing that the Samadhi True Fire only had a strand of red within the pure purple, the cultivators present all sucked in a breath of cold air. Although Xiaohua's Samadhi True Fire was small, it was pure. Xiaohua was only at the early stage of foundation establishment. If he was at the nascent soul stage, how big would the Samadhi True Fire be? All the nascent soul cultivators were well aware of this. Damn it, I finally understand why you were able to easily kill the 3 demons from the heavenly demon sect. Hua Paokong smiled. Your Samadhi True Fire is their nemesis. Yes, Xiaohua put away the Samadhi True Fire and said with an apologetic smile. Junior was also forced to activate the Samadhi True Fire after various spells were ineffective. If this thing is still unable to do anything, Junior can only take Junior's sister and flee. And this thing hit the demons. No wonder it didn't leave behind any remains. Hua Zhishan grinned and said, Xiaohua, take out the demons' things and let the seniors have a look. Let's see if there are any clues about the heavenly demon sect. Yes. Xiaohua had already prepared this item, and unhesitatingly took out a storage pouch from his waist. Hua Zhishan waved his hand and Xiaohua's storage pouch was sucked into his hand. He scanned it with his divine sense and frowned, then passed it to Master Shui Mo. After everyone had finished looking, the last foundation establishment cultivator on the right handed the storage pouch back to Xiaohua. Xiaohua glanced at this somewhat familiar-looking cultivator, but before he could think, he heard Xian Yunzi say, This matter is somewhat troublesome. The methods of the heavenly demon sect are quite strange. I've only heard of similar methods among the demonic cultivators. Many of the methods of the demonic cultivators are not things that we cultivators can practice. Could it be that the sect leader of the heavenly demon sect found a method to practice the demonic techniques? Yes, that should be the case. Master Shuermo also said, I've previously heard about the heavenly demon sect's disciples, but in the cultivation's 3 kingdoms, every year, there are small sects and small sects at the same time. Some small sects and small sects and small sections. Who would have thought that the heavenly demon sect, they sect? The key point is that since they dared to make a move on my blazing fire mountain, they will definitely make a move on the Bluely sect and Huangdao sect. In the future, they will definitely make a move on the Imperial Thunder sect and Huanhua sect. This kind of sect is terrifying. Yes, we need to think about this at length. Hua Zhishan nodded, then turned to Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, take your place. Originally, this old man wanted to give you some rewards in front of these 2 Dao friends. Consider it my ardent fire mountain's gratitude, but since you know the Samadhi True Fire, this old man will have to consider it carefully. Yes, Junior understands. Xiaohua didn't dare to say any more humble words. He bowed and walked to the lowest table on the left. Although Fire Qilin didn't sit next to Shui, Hua Hibiscus couldn't block Fire Qilin's gaze. Fellow Taoist Xiao, Hua Hibiscus smiled apologetically. I've told grandfather everything I know and what Sister Shui told me. Grandfather naturally believes in fellow Taoist, but I didn't expect the disciples of the Bluely sect to. Xiaohua saw that the hot-tempered Hua Hibiscus was so obedient and smiled. Don't worry, what they said makes sense. If I didn't have the true Samadhi fire, I wouldn't dare to say that I could save fellow Taoist Hua from the heavenly demon sect. Hua Hibiscus grinned. Although she looked ugly, her eyes were sincere. She raised her cup. This is my Fiery Mountain's fiery wine. It's the most effective for fire-type physiques. Fellow Taoist Xiao should drink a few more cups. Spiritual wine again. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. However, he thought that everyone present were nascent soul and golden core cultivators. He was just a small character. No one would plot against him. The moment the fiery wine entered his mouth, he instantly felt a burning hot current rush into his body. Xiao Hua choked and almost shed tears. Immediately, the hot current turned into spiritual energy and rushed into his meridians. Like a fire snake, it followed the Heart Sutra and went through a cycle. Only when Xiao Hua's entire body was boiling hot did the spiritual energy dissipate in his meridians. What a tyrannical spiritual wine! Xiao Hua sighed and said, "Hee, this spiritual wine has a benefit," Hua Hibiscus said with a smile. However, just as she said that, her face turned red and she stopped. Xiao Hua didn't see it and asked curiously, "There's a special benefit? I'm all ears." This Hua Hibiscus murmured, "I heard grandfather say that it seems to be related to dual cultivation." Although Hua Hibiscus was ugly, her skin was extremely white. At this moment, her earlobes and neck were slightly red. Sweat. Xiao Hua was also embarrassed. He was about to hide something when he heard someone transmit sound in his ear. "Xiao Hua, this old man has already introduced the nascent soul cultivators. As for the golden core cultivators present, let Hibiscus bring you to toast them. In the future, when you walk around Dawn Rain Continent, it will be convenient." Xiao Hua looked up and saw Hua Zhishan's ugly face looking at him with a smile. Xiao Hua didn't dare to transmit sound in fear of being discovered by the other nascent soul cultivators. At this moment, Hua Hibiscus also received Hua Zhishan's order. She waved her hand and asked the Ardent Fire Mountain disciple behind her to bring a wine pot and a jade cup. She whispered to Xiao Hua, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, the cultivators present all have some face in Xi or Ming country. This servant's master is an Ardent Fire Mountain and didn't come with grandfather. This servant can only toast them. Fellow Taoist Xiao is a disciple of Imperial Thunder Sect, and also this servant's savior. This can be considered as getting to know them. In the future, it should be helpful to fellow Taoist Xiao." Good. Xiao Hua stood up with Hua Hibiscus. He knew that this was an opportunity given to him by Hua Zhishan. Whether he was willing or not, he had to get up and toast. The two nascent soul cultivators wouldn't accept Xiao Hua's toast. Therefore, Hua Hibiscus led Xiao Hua to toast from the left side. There were 5 tables on the left side. They were the 2 middle gold core stage cultivators of Blue Li Sect, Bai Yu and Kuqingqiang, the middle gold core stage cultivator of Blazing Flame Sect, Meng Shi, and early gold core stage cultivator of Blazing Flame Sect, Lu Lanlan. At the bottom, next to Xiao Hua, was the middle foundation establishment stage cultivator of Lian Country, Wang Ming. The other cultivators were easy to talk to. For the sake of Ardent Fire Mountain's face, they all smiled and greeted Xiao Hua. After drinking the spirit wine, only Bai Yu coldly looked at Xiao Hua and asked, "Xiao Hua, this old man feels that you have some problems. Let's not talk about your Samadhi True Fire. How can this Samadhi True Fire burn 3 foundation establishment cultivators at the same time? As long as you burn one of them, the other 2 will attack you at the same time. Can you escape? Moreover, after you saved Hua Hibiscus, you suddenly disappeared and only sent your junior sister to Haoming City. Where have you been for nearly a year? How can this old man not suspect that you have colluded with the Heavenly Demon Sect?" Similarly, without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Hua Hibiscus was also displeased and coldly said, "Senior Bai Yu, this is something that my Ardent Fire Mountain should consider, right? Since Xiao Hua is hiding something, he is also a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. It is impossible for him to collude with the demons of the Heavenly Demon Sect. Even my great-grandfather believes it. There is no need for Senior to worry too much." Hee, Bai Yu smiled and looked at Hua Hibiscus and then at Xiao Hua. He didn't say anything and didn't drink that cup of wine. Xiao Hua originally didn't want to be meddlesome, but this Bai Yu's repeated suspicions also made Xiao Hua somewhat angry. He cupped his hands and said, Senior Baiyu's suspicions are indeed reasonable. Of course, I can't tell Senior where I went this year, but I can explain to Senior how I was able to escape the attacks of 2 foundation-building cultivators. Oh, if you can convince this old man will drink this cup of wine, Baiyu said with a smile. Senior only knows that Junior is a foundation establishment cultivator, but don't forget Junior's origin. Xiaohua faced Baiyu. Junior is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Junior naturally has the strengths of the Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples. Ah, you actually know the lightning evasion technique? Baiyu was somewhat surprised. This old man has a friend who is also a foundation establishment disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. He is already in the late stage of foundation establishment, but he has yet to learn the lightning evasion technique. He is a direct disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. You, from your surname, you shouldn't be a direct disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect, right? How is it possible for you? Senior Baiyu. What is impossible in this world? Xiaohua looked at Baiyu with a smile. Forget it. Baiyu raised his cup and said with a bitter smile. This old man is asking for trouble today. This old man will drink this cup of wine. The last cultivator on the right had been paying attention to Xiaohua. When he heard the conversation between Xiaohua and Baiyu, his face unconsciously revealed a thoughtful expression. After toasting the 5 cultivators on the left, it was the 5 cultivators on the right. These cultivators were Huangdao Sect's middle stage golden core stage cultivator Xingting, and early stage golden core stage cultivator Su Yun. Ming Country's Immortal Music Sect's middle stage golden core stage cultivator Li Qingxiu, and middle stage foundation establishment cultivator Zhiming. The last cultivator, Xiaohua, who looked somewhat familiar, was Xuanyan School's middle stage foundation establishment cultivator Liangyu. However, although Xiaohua was paying attention to Liangyu, he didn't have the slightest impression of this unfamiliar name. Liangyu also followed the rules, as if he didn't know Xiaohua at all. Thus, Xiaohua casually said a few words to these 5 cultivators and returned to his seat. It could be said that he had completely thrown Liangyu's matter aside. After a moment, Huozhishan, Daoist Shuemo, and the others roared with laughter as if they were talking about something extremely interesting. Huozhikong called the dancers over. After watching the dance that made Xiaohua feel somewhat embarrassed, everyone dispersed. Huozhishan left Xiaohua and Shueshue alone while he and his 2 brothers sent Daoist Shuemo and Xian Yunzi out of the cave. Chapter 2043. Fellow Daoist Xiao, please. Hua Furong ordered the disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain to clean up the other tables, before inviting Xiaohua and Shueshue to sit on the left. However, before Xiaohua and Shueshue could sit, Huozhishan and the other 2 had already returned. Huozhishan smiled and said, Xiaohua, and Shueshue come with this old man. Yes. Xiaohua and Shueshue had already stood up. Hearing this, they looked at each other in surprise and followed Huozhishan into the hall. Furong, you come too. Fire Qilin did not need Huozhishan's order, and had already followed behind Shueshue. Hua Furong was hesitant because Huozhishan clearly had something to tell her. However, hearing Huozhishan's call, Hua Furong quickly followed. After the hall, there were several different corridors. Huozhishan did not hesitate to choose the middle corridor and walked in. Fire Qilin only had Shueshue in his eyes and did not care, but Hua Furong frowned. When Huozhishan stopped in front of the last room, Hua Furong was even more confused. This room was where the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain usually cultivated. Outsiders were not allowed to enter. Even Fire Qilin and Hua Furong could not enter without being summoned. Huozhishan looked at the 4 people kindly and waved his sleeve, opening the room's restriction, and entering first. Then the other 2 elders looked at each other with a mysterious smile and followed him in. Xiaohua entered the room and realized that it was extremely large. It was probably half the size of the reception hall. In the room, there were 3 praying mats placed in a triangular formation. Below them were some simple decorations such as jades and bottles. Qilin, Furong, you 2 accompany Xiaohua and Shueshue. Huozhishan waved his sleeve and walked to the center praying mat. He smiled and said, This old man has some matters to discuss. Yes. Although Fire Qilin should be the one to respond, Hua Furong could only answer on his behalf. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please sit. Hua Furong reached out and took out a few praying mats from her storage pouch. She casually placed them in the quiet room and invited Xiao Hua to take a seat. Although Hua Zhishan wanted Xiao Hua and the others to sit as they pleased, how could Xiao Hua dare? He smiled and said, "This Xiao is prepared to stand. If I sit down, I'm afraid it would be disrespectful to the seniors." Seeing this, Shui naturally nodded and said softly, "Let's stand here and talk." "Okay, I'll listen to fellow Taoist Shui." The fire Qilin, who had been silent all this time, waved his hand and put the several praying mats back into his storage bag. "Fire Qilin." Hua Furong was a bit angry. She said in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist Xiao and little sister Shui are guests. Grandfather ordered them to sit. They are just being polite, so how can you take it seriously?" "Oh, okay." The fire Qilin was like a puppet that had lost its soul. With a flick of its hand, the 4 praying mats fell to the ground. Shui looked at Xiao Hua awkwardly. Xiao Hua also looked at the fire Qilin, but it turned a deaf ear to Xiao Hua's gaze. Sigh thinking about how the fire Qilin protected Shui, Xiao Hua did not know how to treat it. Cough cough, above the cultivation room, the 3 elders of the ardent fire mountain had smiles in their eyes. They communicated in a low voice for a moment before nodding. Hua Zhishan coughed and said, "Xiao Hua, you all should sit down. This old man has something to say to you." This junior obeys. Xiao Hua bowed and sat down. "Just now at the banquet, the disciples of Lanli sect doubted you. Please don't take it to heart." Hua Zhishan thought for a moment and said, "This old man knows that you are a disciple of Imperial Thunder sect. You would not collude with any demon from Sky Demon sect. However, the Lanli sect has always wanted to be at the forefront of the cultivation sects in the country of Xi. They are quite hostile towards the Huanhua sect and the Imperial Thunder sect. This old man understands his intentions. When he asked you to reveal some spells, it was also to let you become famous." Yes, this junior understands. This was the first time Xiao Hua knew that Lanli sect was hostile towards Huanhua sect and Imperial Thunder sect. However, he was very happy that Hua Zhishan was explaining this to him. The regret from before was swept away. "You saved my family's Furong. The 3 of us are very happy. After hearing the benefits that Furong promised you, the 3 of us also agreed. Let's not talk about bringing you to participate in the auction. Just now, this old man has already prepared some benefits for you. We don't dare. As long as senior can bring this junior to participate in the auction, this junior will be very grateful." Xiao Hua quickly smiled. "Hee, that's easy. When the time comes and you see something that you are satisfied with, just tell this old man. This old man will help you bid." Hua Zhishan said casually, "However, in the auction that we will participate in, any item will cost a lot of spirit stones. This old man and the others have already arranged the auction for my Hua Zhishan. If you want to bid for something, you will have to pay the spirit stones yourself." "Of course." This junior left for a year to prepare. Xiao Hua smiled. "I don't dare to trouble the seniors." At this time, Hua Furong said, "Great-grandfather, just now when the boy accompanied fellow Xiao here, he received a message from a cultivator. The boy knows that great-grandfather hates this kind of message, so he crushed it. I didn't expect it to be a message from Immortal Music Sect's Taoist Blue Feather." As she spoke, Hua Furong took out the message talisman that the boy crushed. And I know Hua Zhishan didn't even look at it. He flicked his sleeve and said, "This guy came for the item that my Hua Zhishan is bidding for." Today, Immortal Music Sect's Li Qingxiu came to visit this old man. He didn't even bring his name card. He is obviously using his Mongolian sect's arrogance. Yes, the boy understands. Hua Furong was overjoyed and put the broken message talisman into her storage bag. Seeing Hua Furong take the blame for the boy, Xiao Hua had a new understanding of this temperamental female cultivator. In fact, appearance didn't mean everything. For example, the beautiful Chun Yi. Xiao Hua, actually what this old man wants to say is far from this. Hua Zhishan looked at Hua Furong. He obviously knew what this junior boy had done. He turned to Xiao Hua and said, "This old man saw your true Samadhi fire and en, just now, all my previous thoughts were overturned. I want to give you more." Ah, Xiao Hua was stunned. He felt that something was wrong. How could there be free spirit wine in this world? He quickly waved his hand and said, "This junior really only wants to ask for a small favor from senior. What are you in such a hurry for? Boss hasn't finished yet." Hua Picong said angrily. "We have been discussing for half a day and you don't appreciate it." Third brother Hua Zhishan smiled. "Don't scare the child. This temper of yours, Farong has learned it from you." Chapter 2044. Hee boss, Farong is my direct descendant. How can she not follow me? Hua Peikong laughed. Humph Qilin is also my direct descendant. How can she not follow me? Hua Shishui looked at the infatuated Fire Qilin and said angrily. Hua Shishui Shan ignored the two and clenched his hand. Xiao Hua felt the world's energy in the room suddenly gather in Hua Shishui Shan's hand. Hua Shishui Shan waved his hand, and a red light flashed in the air. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the air and started to absorb the world's energy. In the blink of an eye, it became big. Ah! Xiao Hua was somewhat dumbstruck. The trembling light was actually a fiery red firebird. That firebird was extremely lifelike. Aside from the fact that there wasn't much spiritual light in its eyes, even the fine feathers on its forehead could be seen. It was exactly the same as a real firebird. On the left side of the firebird, an extreme heat radiated in all directions. Xiao Hua was not too close, but he could already feel the heat. Whoosh! That firebird actually spread its wings and pounced towards Xiao Hua. Ouch! Xiao Hua was startled. When the firebird flew, it actually gave off an intimidating aura that could cover Xiao Hua and restrict his flight. Moreover, this momentum was so terrifying. Although it was much worse than the vermilion bird transformed by the vermilion bird Great Array in Tianmen Mountain, it was not something that Xiao Hua could easily dodge. The bird flew in front of Xiao Hua. Half an inch closer and Xiao Hua would turn into ashes, but the bird spread its wings again and flew in front of Hua Shishui Shan. Seeing the bird in his hand, Hua Shishui Shan looked at Xiao Hua with pride and said, "Xiao Hua, what do you think of this old man's fire controlling technique?" "It's really amazing," Xiao Hua said willingly. "This is the first time this junior has seen such a technique. This junior is full of admiration." "This is nothing." Hua Shishui Shan smiled. "My ardent fire mountain is a fire sect. We have many fire controlling techniques. I just don't know, your Imperial Thunder sect also has fire attribute disciples. Have you learned this kind of fire controlling technique?" This hearing Hua Zhishan's question, Xiao Hua hesitated. After all, he represented the Imperial Lightning sect and couldn't embarrass them. But in reality, he hadn't learned any fire control techniques from the Imperial Thunder sect that brat Yoda. "Boss is asking you. How can you be so rude?" Hua Picong shouted. "You're just a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect with a different surname. How could you have learned such a miraculous fire controlling technique?" Xiao Hua nodded. "Senior Hua is right. Junior has indeed never had the opportunity to learn such a fire controlling technique. However, Junior believes that my Imperial Thunder sect surely has such a miraculous fire controlling technique as well. There is, but can you practice it?" Hua Zhishan looked at Xiao Hua with interest. Junior doesn't know. Xiao Hua could only tell the truth. "Do you want to learn my fire control technique?" Hua Zhishan asked. Xiao Hua was taken aback. He shook his head and said, "Junior doesn't want to." "Why not?" Hua Picong was anxious. Xiao Hua glanced at Hua Picong, not knowing why he was so anxious. He could only reply, "This is a secret technique of Ardent Fire Mountain. Junior is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. How could I learn Ardent Fire Mountain's secret technique? Even if Junior wants to, I'm afraid I can't." "Why not?" "As long as you want to," Hua Picong said. "Senior, what do you mean?" Xiao Hua was startled. "What do you think of Farong?" Hua Zhishan suddenly asked. "Not bad," Xiao Hua blurted out. But then his expression changed. He knew that something was wrong. He looked at Shueshue. Shueshue also understood, her eyes flashing with surprise. Hua Zhishan laughed. "You have good eyesight, great-grandfather. What do you mean?" Hua Farong's face turned red as she hurriedly asked. "You silly child." Hua Zhishan laughed. "This year, you've mentioned Xiao Hua many times in front of this old man. If this old man still doesn't know your intentions, then this old man will really be a fool. That's not it. Great-grandfather Huafurong's neck was completely red as she anxiously said. Fellow Taoist Xiao is this child's benefactor. This child only mentioned this in front of you, so that great-grandfather can reward him greatly. Boy knows that fellow Taoist Xiao and Sister Shui are a match made in heaven. Sister Shui's yearning for fellow Taoist Xiao in this year. Boy has seen it all. How can a boy steal someone's love? This absolutely cannot. Why not? Huapikong angrily said. You're a direct disciple of Ardent Fire Mountain. Your future will be bright. Xiaohua is just a neglected disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. What future does he have? If he dual cultivates with you, this old man will teach him all the secret techniques of Ardent Fire Mountain. When he reaches Golden Core or Nascent Soul, this old man will give him the position of an elder of Ardent Fire Mountain. Wouldn't that be more glorious than being in the Imperial Thunder sect? Great-grandfather, dual cultivators cannot be forced. Huafurong naturally knew that Huazhishan and the others cared for her, but she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She hurriedly defended herself. But before she could finish, Huapikong berated her. Furong, although you've been like your great-grandfather since you were young and have a bad temper, unlike a little girl, you've always been kind to others. Great-grandfather and the others can clearly see that. Let's not talk about other things, just take that demon from the Heavenly Demon sect for example. Wasn't it because of your kindness that he caused so much trouble? Also, the mistake of the boy at the door, you didn't even ask about it and just took responsibility for it. You have to know that there are some things you can be kind to others, but there are some things you can't. This old man also knows that you're a female cultivator, and have always been inferior to others because of your appearance. Many times, you've avoided others and even used your bad temper as an excuse. Huapikong continued. However, your happiness is something you have to fight for yourself. You can't rely on others' charity. Xiaohua's appearance is grand, and he also has a fire attribute constitution. He's proficient in Samadhi True Fire. This kind of cultivator is very hard to find in the Dawn Rain continent. If he were to dual cultivate with you, it would definitely be extremely beneficial to your cultivation. Moreover, Xiaohua's cultivation would also definitely advance greatly because of your assistance. Why don't you take the initiative to seize this kind of beneficial matter? This old man knows that you're thin-skinned, so today, I brought you and Xiaohua into the quiet room, and made this matter clear in front of you. It's also Xiaohua's good fortune to have you, the daughter of the first wife of Ardent Fire Mountain. Great-grandfather, Huafurong smiled bitterly. Everything you said is correct. This boy also doesn't object to what you said. A woman will dress up for the person she likes. With this kind of appearance, which cultivator would be willing to dual cultivate with a boy? Those who send themselves to my door, saying sweet words and loving words, which one of them doesn't have ulterior motives, and want to rush to my Ardent Fire Mountain's inheritance? Boy has long been sick of it. Otherwise he wouldn't have followed great-grandfather to Bright Dawn City. It's alright, Furong. When you reach Nascent Soul, you'll definitely be able to reforge your body. At that time, you can do whatever you want to him. Huazhishan smiled. Don't be like this old man and the others, thinking too highly of yourself and not wanting to wallow in the mire with others. Huafurong smiled bitterly again and bowed. Great-grandfather, boy is only in the early stage of foundation establishment. Nascent soul is something that will happen thousands of years later. In any case, boy doesn't intend to reforge his body. Sigh, great-grandfather, to put it bluntly, boy doesn't even like Xiaohua. Aren't you forcing the boy to go against his heart? Hee, how is that possible? Huapikong smiled. This old man also came here when he was young. How can I not see it? Back then, when this old man was dual cultivating, it was exactly the same as you are now. A forcibly picked melon won't be sweet. Great-grandfather, this old man understands your feelings. Boy Huafurong was somewhat dejected as she spoke softly. What do you mean by a forcibly picked melon won't be sweet? Huapikong said. Feelings can be cultivated. Back then, this old man also forced himself on her. Third brother. Huazhishan scolded and then said to Huafurong. It's different now. Furong, You have 3 great-grandfathers supporting you. There are cultivators all over the world, and you can choose one by one. This old man also likes Xiaohua. Just his true samadhi fire is a gift from the heavens. Fellow Taoist Xiao is Sister Shue's lover. Hua Furong said word by word. Boy isn't ashamed to the point of fighting over a junior's partner. Haha, Hua Zhishan laughed. Do you even need to consider this? This old man and the others are all optimistic. Didn't you see how distracted your cousin is? If Shui and Qilin dual cultivate, and you and Xiaohua dual cultivate, wouldn't that be a natural couple? Ah? At this moment, whether it was Xiaohua, Hua Furong, or even Shui, they were all stunned. Previously, when Hua Furong argued with the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, Xiaohua was a bit embarrassed. He looked at Shui and did not speak. Shui naturally knew that Xiaohua and Hua Furong had only met once and did not have any dirty thoughts. But after hearing Hua Zhishan's arrangement, she was a bit afraid. Shui seems to be of the lightning attribute, similar to Qilin's fire attribute. After dual cultivating, their cultivation will be the same as yours, complementing each other. Why not? Hua Zhishan said proudly. Qilin? Boy is here. Hua Qilin ignored Hua Zhishan's call. Only after shouting twice did he look away from Shui's anxious expression. He asked curiously, why did great-grandpa call boy? Do you like Shui? Hua Zhishan asked decisively. I like her. Hua Qilin was even more straightforward. Are you willing to let Shui dual cultivate with you? Hua Qilin stared blankly, then became overjoyed. Of course, boy is very willing. Damn this. Xiaohua was slightly angered. Shui's face was also ashen. Look how good is this? Hua Zhishan laughed. The 2 of you are this old man's treasures. Once Xiaohua and Shui come, all the problems will be solved. This old man is happy to death. Damn it. Xiaohua cursed inwardly. Isn't this randomly matching a couple? Chapter 2045. Immediately after, Xiaohua stepped forward and bowed. 3 seniors, this junior greatly admires Ardent Fire Mountain, but the problem is the same as what fellow Taoist Hua Furong said. This junior and fellow Taoist Hua Furong have only met a few times, and I don't have any thoughts in this regard. Senior has forced us to be together, and we are simply unable to dual cultivate. Besides, this junior has been in love with Shui for a long time, and this life can't be without Shui. Senior's good intentions, this junior can only accept it. That's right. Shui stepped forward and grabbed Xiaohua. Their fingers interlocked and she said, this junior will only dual cultivate with Xiaohua in this life. Others would rather die than submit. Rather die than submit? Hua Pakhong laughed. I said the same thing back then, but after I dual cultivated with her 3rd brother. Hearing Hua Pachong's words, Hua Zhishan hurriedly scolded. Don't talk too much. Boss, it's nothing. Hua Pakhong said innocently. I just wanted to say that she always makes me drink blaze brew. And I know. Hua Zhishan was angry and amused at the same time. He turned to Xiaohua and said, how can a junior like you interfere with our decision? When my Ardent Fire Mountain tells this good news to the Imperial Thunder Sect, even Qian Lazy of the Imperial Thunder Sect will be happy. I'm sorry, senior. Xiaohua rejected. This junior's private matter, and it has nothing to do with the Imperial Thunder Sect. This junior will say the same thing as Shui. I would rather die than submit. Then you can wait to die. Hua Pakhong was already impatient. He grabbed, and before Xiaohua could react, he felt the heaven and earth spiritual qi around him being sucked dry. He had no way to borrow strength, and an irresistible restrictive force appeared in midair, firmly holding him in place. Yu Xiaohua was shocked. Just as he was about to spit out the spiritual fire and forcefully break through the shackles, the power of the shackles had already landed. The true essence around his body was completely frozen, just like in the ink Zhao Black Forest. Bitter Xiaohua sighed. Great-grandfather. Hua Furong hurriedly stood in front of Xiaohua. You have taken Xiaohua's life. How can that boy still have the face to continue living in this world? Tisk, Hua Peikong put his hands inside his Taoist robe. I was just scaring him. How could I bear to do anything to such a good son-in-law? As long as he and Xue Xue change their minds and agree to this matter, this old man will naturally release them. Ah! Xiaohua quickly turned his head. Sure enough, Xue Xue was also standing there, unable to move at all. This nascent soul cultivator's technique was really not something that Xiaohua and Xue Xue could deal with. Qilin Furong, I'll leave Xiaohua and Xue Xue to you too. Huozhishan flicked his sleeve and said, persuade them well. Once they agree, this old man will send the news to your parents in Ardent Fire Mountain, and my Ardent Fire Mountain will head to the Imperial Thunder Sect to propose marriage. Great-grandfather, Hua Hibiscus still wanted to explain, but Hua Mengshui waved his big sleeve. The four of them only felt their vision blur, and they all appeared outside the quiet room. Ah, fellow Taoist Xiao, it's all the servant's fault. Hua Hibiscus smiled apologetically. This servant only wanted to give fellow Taoists some rewards. I didn't expect such a change. No matter. Xiaohua did not have the strength to complain about her. He only gave her a look and said, this Xiao does not have anything else to think about right now. I only ask without waiting for him to finish. The Fire Qilin said with a smile of exultation. Fellow Taoist Xue, this way please. I did not expect this Fire Qilin's thoughts to be seen through by great-grandfather. This is truly a match made in heaven. I hope that fellow Taoist Xue will treat this Fire Qilin with respect in the future. Pei, Xue Xue glared and said angrily. This concubine's heart is Xiaohua's, and her body is also Xiaohua's. This concubine will definitely not dual cultivate with you in this life. Just give up on this idea. Then she said to Xiaohua, Xiaohua, rest assured. This concubine will commit suicide by biting her tongue. O fellow Taoist Xue. The Fire Qilin originally extended his hand to support Xue Xue, but at this moment, he was so frightened that he hurriedly retracted his hand. He said with an ashen face, could it be? I, a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, cannot compare to you, an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, Xiaohua? I, who will be able to control the Ardent Fire Mountain in the future, cannot compare to you, Xiaohua, who is destined to be unknown in the future. Could it be that you are also like those vulgar women who only care about a cultivator's appearance and no longer appreciate a cultivator's heart? Xue Xue did not show any expression. She sneered and said, this has nothing to do with appearance. This concubine only knows that there is Xiaohua in this world. Other male cultivators are all dung. If I cannot dual cultivate with Xiaohua, this concubine would rather die. Hearing this, the Fire Qilin's originally grief-stricken face flushed red. He said anxiously, fellow Taoist Xue means, you are not doing this because of I's appearance, but because there is Xiaohua in this world? That's right, Xue Xue answered without hesitation. There is Xiaohua in this world. No matter what other people, this concubine will not give half a glance. What if there is no Xiaohua in this world? The Fire Qilin's eyes narrowed. Xue Xue hesitated and said coldly, then there is also no concubine in this world. What nonsense are you talking about? Why aren't you taking one away each? Otherwise, this old man will kill you with one palm. Huo Paikong's angry roar sounded. Yes, great-grandfather, Huo Furong smiled bitterly and said in a low voice, fellow Taoist Xiao, please follow this servant first. Otherwise, it will be troublesome, but how could Xiaohua let Xue Xue leave him? He shook his head slightly. Little sister Xue, please follow big sister first. Hua Hibiscus understood Xiaohua's intentions. She pulled Xue Xue to her side and slowly walked along the corridor. Seeing this, Xiaohua glanced at the Fire Qilin and also followed them. The Fire Qilin hung its head dejectedly for a moment and could only continue walking. Hua Furong did not dare to disobey the orders of Huozhishan and the others, and did not arrange for Xiaohua and Xue Xue to be in the same room. Fortunately, the two rooms were facing each other. Xiaohua could see Xue Xue on the other side with a glance. Only then did Xiaohua's heart calm down. Hua Furong sat beside Xiaohua with a bitter face. In that room, the Fire Qilin was even more dejected, as if all of its energy had been sucked away. Even after several hours, Xiaohua still didn't have any countermeasures. He was really anxious, as if his heart was on fire. Being imprisoned here did not matter, but inside the cave, he still had to refine the Ling Lei pill. This was related to Shue's foundation. There was only one heavenly een grass. If the refining failed, Shue's foundation would become fleeting. However, could he agree to dual cultivate with Huofurong? Could Shui agree? Very quickly, a day and night passed. Xiaohua sat cross-legged and stared at Shui in the other room. Shui was as calm as water and looked at Xiaohua with a smile. No matter what, I have to think of a way. Xiaohua naturally knew Shui's intention to die. Chapter 2046. At this moment, he heard Huofurong secretly transmit her voice. Fellow Taoist Xiao, no one in the entire Ardent Fire Mountain dares to disobey the words of great-grandfather. Furthermore, he has never rashly acted against low-level cultivators. This time he must have made his decision. This servant knows the feelings of you and little sister Shui, and this servant does not wish to separate the two of you. However, the situation is pressing. This servant thinks that it would be better if we first compromise and wait for the three great-grandfather to feel at ease. We will coax them until they are happy and release the four of us. At that time, you and little sister Shui can escape to a faraway place and quickly return to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Could it be that they still want to chase after the Thunderclap Peak? Xiaohua's heart was moved. This was not a bad idea. After all, dual cultivation was not something that could be done in a short period of time. There were still many things that needed to be prepared. If he and Shui left, what could they do? However, just as Xiaohua was about to nod, his heart was moved again. He thought of Huopikong's forced himself on her. He transmitted his voice to Huofurong in a low voice. He saw that Huofurong's face was also flushed red, and she slightly lowered her head. Indeed, Xiaohua's misgivings were absolutely reasonable. How could three nascent soul cultivators who had lived for several thousand years be fooled by two people? When the time came, it would be too late to steal the chicken and end up losing the rice used to lure it. Then what should we do? Huofurong was somewhat at a loss. At this moment, Shui, who was in the other quiet room, suddenly raised her head. Her face revealed a frightened expression. Fellow Taoist Hu quickly. Xiaohua's heart was also grasped as he hurriedly called out to Huofurong. Huofurong saw this and felt that things were not good. Just as she was about to run into the other quiet room, she felt a force coming from the quiet room and pushing her back. Immediately, the quiet room was sealed. Fire Qilin. Xiaohua's face was pale as he roared loudly. Cousin, Fire Qilin. Huofurong was even more shocked. She crawled up from the ground and rushed into the quiet room. At this moment, Xiaohua did not care about anything else as he angrily said, Fire Qilin, if anything happens to my Shui. As he spoke, Xiaohua opened his mouth and forced the spiritual fire into his mouth. On the other hand, his arms, he wanted to use the strength of his corporeal body to break the seal. However, right at this moment, Hibiscus's figure that was pouncing towards the restriction was knocked back, and she crashed into Xiaohua's body. Shui's face was pale as she sat on the ground. There was blood on the Fire Qilin's lips, and its face was ferocious. It walked out of the room step by step, completely ignoring Xiaohua and Huofurong. It walked into the corridor. Little sister Shui. Huofurong hurriedly ran over, and Xiaohua naturally followed. I'm fine. Shui seemed to be a little frightened, but she still appeared calm. The blood on the Fire Qilin's mouth is from its own bite. Just now Huofurong glanced at Xiaohua, who had an extremely abnormal expression. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Even if Huofurong didn't ask, Shui still had to say it. Just now, when the Fire Qilin opened the restriction of the quiet room, it asked this concubine a question. What words? Huofurong asked curiously. He would rather die than dual cultivate? Shui said calmly. This concubine said yes. Then this concubine wanted to bite my tongue. But the Fire Qilin bit its own lips and stopped this concubine's action. Then, it opened the restriction and went out by itself. What is the Fire Qilin doing? Xiaohua frowned. Why is it so mad? This concubine. We'll go and take a look. Huofurong wanted to leave but hesitated, afraid that something might happen. In the end, Huofurong opened the restriction of the quiet room and quickly left. However, not long after, Huofurong turned back with a worried expression. What's wrong? Shue asked in a low voice. The fire Qilin sealed all the meridians in his body and knelt in front of great-grandfather's quiet room. Huofurong said in a low voice. He is kowtowing. Xiaohua and Shue were immediately stunned. He wants to earnestly ask the three great-grandfathers to retract their orders. Huofurong said sadly. We will go too, Xiaohua quickly said. Don't. Huofurong quickly stopped them. The fire Qilin is great-grandfather's favorite. It is fine as long as he is here. If we all go, I am afraid that we will lose their face and make things worse. Sigh, this fellow Taoist Hua. Xiaohua sighed in his heart and sat down. This was the first time he changed that guy to fellow Taoist Hua. Shue also sighed. After knowing what the fire Qilin was doing, Huofurong didn't dare to go over and watch for fear of angering the three great-grandfathers. Just like that, the three of them sat there for a day and a night. Just when Xiaohua was thinking blindly, a boy quietly came in and called Huofurong out. After another hour, Huofurong came in with a spiritual talisman in her hand and a trace of worry on her face. How is it, fellow Taoist Hua? Xiaohua asked anxiously. Huofurong activated the spiritual talisman and hit Xiaohua and Shue's bodies. The restriction on their bodies was immediately removed. Go, great-grandfather has let you go, Huofurong said calmly. Shue glanced at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, Where is Senior Fire Qilin? Sai, cousin kowtowed for a day and a night. His forehead is completely broken, and he has already fainted. Huofurong forced a smile and said, However, with little sister Shue's question, cousin will definitely be happy. Sai. Shue shook her head slightly and pulled Xiaohua's arm. Let's go. Xiaohua also didn't want to say anything more. After leaving the cave, Huofurong said apologetically, Fellow Taoist Xiao, I won't send you off. I still have to go back and see cousin. The auction is not far away. When the time comes, I will go and find fellow Taoist. No need. Xiaohua quickly waved his hand. I and junior sister Shue are preparing to return to Imperial Thunder Sect. It is better not to participate in this auction. Great-grandfather said that we must repay the favor. Huofurong said awkwardly. Fellow Taoist Xiao, you should go together. Xiaohua was in a difficult position and looked at Shue. Shue sighed and said, Since Senior doesn't mention this matter anymore, I'm afraid he won't mention it again in the future. If Xiaohua wants to go, then go. After all, it's Senior's order. All right. Xiaohua nodded. This Xiao and junior sister will be waiting for you inside the cave. Immediately, Xiaohua pulled Shue and flew down the mountain without looking back. Huofurong looked at the two figures and sighed. Then, she turned around and quickly entered the cave. Xiaohua and Shue's hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They felt like they had just survived a disaster. They could only clench their fists tightly and didn't say anything. When they were about to reach the core formation cultivator's residence, Xiaohua suddenly whispered, Shue, don't you think this nascent soul cultivator is too overbearing? Naturally, Shue said with lingering fear. If not for the fire Qilin, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to leave the cavern dwelling in Ardent Fire Mountain. It seems like we were wrong, Xiaohua said with a frown. Since Reverend Miyu has come to Haoming City and wants to participate in the auction, how could we, as disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect, not pay him a visit? Otherwise, not only would we be unable to explain our etiquette, but we'd also be too embarrassed to look for him if something happened. Shue nodded. Husband, you're right. Let's go now. Otherwise, we'll have no reason to meet him in the auction. According to the directions given by Yu Chun, Xiaohua and Shue found a cavern dwelling that was slightly larger than the one in Ardent Fire Mountain. They saw that it was similar to the one in Ardent Fire Mountain. There were more than 10 brocade-robed disciples guarding the entrance. They were all foundation-building and aura-refining disciples. Xiaohua and Shue didn't dare to be negligent. They took their tokens and went forward to pay their respects, clearly stating that they were disciples of the shocking Thunder Palace. Unexpectedly, the disciple who took the tokens only glanced at them and took out a jade slip. It seemed like he was recording something inside. Then he returned the tokens to Xiaohua and said with an expressionless face, I understand. You can wait for your experiential learning. Reverend Miyu has her own matters to attend to, so she won't see you. Yes. Disciple understands. Xiaohua and Shueshue took the tokens and looked at each other. Then, they turned around and flew away from Reverend Miyu's cavern. They knew that there must be a lot of disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect who went out for experiential learning. There must be a lot of people who knew that Reverend Miyu had come to Haoming City. In the Imperial Thunder sect, it was indeed very difficult to meet Reverend Miyu, but in Haoming City, it was easy. Everyone wanted to get close to a nascent soul cultivator. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was only a foundation-building disciple, and Shueshue was an aura-refining disciple. Among the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect who came out for experiential learning, their cultivation was the lowest. It would be strange if they could meet Reverend Miyu. Of course, since Xiaohua was experiential learning in Haoming City, he had to come and pay his respects. It was normal for a nascent soul cultivator to not see him, but if he didn't come to pay his respects, it would be rude. If Reverend Miyu found out, it would be a big sin. This was something Xiaohua understood after being taught a lesson by a nascent soul cultivator. After returning from Reverend Miyu's Immortal's Cave, Xiaohua saw that the restrictions on his Immortal's Cave were safe and sound. Only then did he let out a long sigh of relief. He swept his divine sense left and right. Seeing that there wasn't anything unsightly, he opened the restrictions and entered the Immortal's Cave. Sure enough, the formation around the earth fire was still there. The earth fire inside the formation was licking the pill furnace. Everything was safe and sound. Xiaohua glanced at Shueshue, who was still somewhat restless, and said with a sigh, "It's all because of my incompetence that you suffered such an unexpected calamity." Shueshue calmed herself down, stepped forward, and sighed. She hugged Xiaohua's waist, buried her head in his chest, and said, "Husband, it's all this concubine's fault. You obviously didn't want this concubine to go, but this concubine insisted on going, and actually caused so much trouble. Alas, although I didn't want you to go, it's obviously a nascent soul senior. You can't not go and pay your respects. What can you do?" Xiaohua stroked Shueshue's black hair and comforted her. Shueshue made an N sound and murmured, "In the end, it's still because my cultivation is shallow. It's just like Uncle said. Unless you cultivate to the nascent soul realm, otherwise, no one dares to be arrogant on Dawn Rain Continent. That's right, strength is everything." Xiaohua's eyes slightly narrowed, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed through his expression. Husband Shueshue's face was red and her body was slightly hot. She said in a low voice, "Today I'll dual cultivate with husband. I'll give you my primordialine body as soon as possible. Only then can I be at ease." Chapter 2047. When Xiaohua heard this, his heart swayed and he hugged Shueshue tightly. But then he smiled and said, "Wife, don't think too much. After all, you have not built your foundation. If you dual cultivate now, it will definitely affect your cultivation. Even if your husband is selfish, it is impossible for me to take your primordial yin. Besides, the Linglei pill is about to be refined. Why should you and I be anxious?" "Husband, this concubine is afraid." Shueshue raised her neck and said, kissing Xiaohua's lips. Her strength was extremely strong. As if only by doing so could she abandon the fear in her heart. Xiaohua knew that Shueshue was frightened and her state of mind was damaged. If he did not make up for it in time, it would definitely affect her cultivation. Thus, he hugged Shueshue and said some lingering words in her ear, coaxing her to sleep. Then Xiaohua sat cross-legged and entered his space. Little Huang, you are awake?" In the space, little Huang stretched and lay on the ground with half-closed eyes. "And mother," little Huang replied. "I should be awake, but I am still a little sleepy." Xiaohua looked at little Huang. There did not seem to be any special changes, only his figure was slightly bigger. If he did not pay attention, he might not be able to see it. "Good," Xiaohua replied and began to think about his own matters. Xiaohua originally wanted to wait for the Sword Heart Yuan Seed technique to succeed in dream execution before splitting his primordial spirit, according to the secret technique, and cultivate different techniques. But in front of the absolute strength of the three elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, he could not remain calm. He did not want to waste any time and urgently needed to protect himself and protect Xue Xue's strength. However, when he activated the secret technique and was about to use it, he hesitated again. Last time, when he split his primordial spirit, the pain of his primordial spirit had just subsided. Moreover, the Ling Lei pill was being refined. At this time, even if he succeeded in splitting his primordial spirit, it would definitely hinder the refinement of the pill. After pondering for a long time, Xiaohua understood. He smiled bitterly and thought to himself, "What is wrong with this young master? I am not calm at all. Now this young master has a secret technique that others do not know. But it must be done step by step and not be disturbed by external things. Senior Huang Yi has suffered so much. This young master still has not understood his own feelings? Stay calm, stay calm. Only by remaining unchanged can we be victorious in every battle." As he thought about this, Xiaohua's mind left the space and silently operated the Buddhist sect's mental cultivation method. Only then did his mental state slowly calm down. Goldie was flabbergasted as he watched Xiaohua come in and go out. Inexplicably, he stretched his body again, and his figure quietly grew a little bigger. In the blink of an eye, another 10 days passed. Xiaohua and Xue Xue only cultivated behind closed doors, and didn't even take half a step out of the cave. During this period of time, neither the fire hibiscus nor the fire qilin appeared in front of the cave. On the other side of Xiaohua's Immortal's Cave, which was also a foundation-building cultivator's Immortal's Cave, Xuanyan School's Liang Yu was whispering to Yen Yu. He then said, "Senior Marshal Brother Yen, I'm afraid we can't carry out the plan we discussed. Although that Xiaohua appeared in Haoming City, he saved Huofurong of the Ardent Fire Mountain, and is now favored by the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain. If we attack him, I'm afraid, we'll bring about endless harm." It's just the Ardent Fire Mountain. How can it be compared to my Xuanyan School? Yen Yu's expression was very gloomy. Obviously, he didn't like hearing this news that made him angry. Moreover, this matter. Not only must we do it, we must do it quickly. Senior Marshal Brother Yen, do you want to die? Liang Yu advised in astonishment. If Xiaohua were to die in our hands, wouldn't the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain fly into a rage? With the fiery tempers of Hua Baikong and Hua Yaishui, wouldn't they pinch us to death? They simply wouldn't care about our identities as disciples of the Xuanyan School. Moreover, do you think that the masters would be serious with the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain, who are comparable to 6 nascent soul cultivators, for the sake of you and me? Yen Yu narrowed his eyes and stared at the darkness inside the Immortal's Cave for a long time. He then said in a low voice, "Although Xiaohua saved Huofurong, he wasn't a disciple of the Ardent Fire Mountain after all. Why would the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain protect him? We secretly killed him. Even the Imperial Thunder sect doesn't know who did it, so how would the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain know? This Dawn Rain continent is so big. Even a spirit-severing cultivator might not be able to find the reason for the disappearance of a Foundation establishment cultivator, right? Little brother, from the looks of the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain, it seems that they don't just want to treat Xiaohua as Huofurong's savior." Liang Yu frowned and explained. Listening to their tone, it seems that they want to treat Xiaohua as Huofurong's dual cultivation partner. They actually introduced him to Xian Yunzi and Taoist Master Shui Mo. Moreover, Huofurong even accompanied Xiaohua to propose a toast to us. "Oh really?" Yin Yu was somewhat dazed. He said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "If that's the case, then it's really troublesome. Could it be that this old man's grandson will die in vain? Therefore, Senior Marshal Brother Yen, you and I better not take the risk." Liang Yu advised, "If your grandson is gone, then let the younger generation give birth to another one. Isn't everything settled?" If I can give birth, then why would I waste so much effort to take revenge?" When this was mentioned, Yen Yu was ashamed and angry again. "My bloodline is in that little bastard's body. If he dies, where will my bloodline be passed on?" Liang Yu knew Yen Yu's bitterness. He chuckled and no longer spoke. Sitting on a chair, Yen Yu drank mouthful after mouthful of spirit wine. However, he suddenly asked, "That's not right, Junior Marshal Brother Liang. Didn't you say that Xiaohua has an aura-refining junior martial sister who is with him? Their attitude is very intimate. Moreover, this Yen has also seen that female cultivator, who is as beautiful as a celestial being. She is 100 times better than the incomparably ugly Hua Furong. How could Xiaohua abandon his partner and find someone else? Hehe, speaking of this, Liang Yu still has to tell you. Liang Yu wasn't blind. Of course, he saw the Fire Qilin's infatuation with Xue Xue. He whispered this matter to Yen Yu. Forget it, Yen Yu slapped the chair and said dejectedly. Is there still a need to say it? How could Xiaohua and Xue Xue escape the clutches of the three elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain? I'm afraid that this matter has already been decided. The two beauties of the Imperial Thunder sect will be occupied by two ugly people. Therefore, even if Xiaohua isn't willing, in order to make him willing, the three elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain will definitely start with Xue Xue. Senior Martial Brother Yen. You should let this matter go, Liang Yu said with a smile after seeing that he had persuaded Yen Yu. Even if I don't want to, I have to, Yen Yu said with a flick of his sleeve. I'm not stupid enough to go against a nascent soul cultivator. Saying this, Yen Yu got up from the chair and walked out. Where is Senior Martial Brother Yen going? Liang Yu asked with a smile. I'm going out for a stroll, Yen Yu said. If I see any aura-refining brat I don't like, I'll kill him while I'm at it. I'll make other cultivators as depressed as I am. Chapter 2048. Haha, Liang Yu laughed, knowing that Yen Yu was truly depressed. However, in less than an hour, Yen Yu returned with a look of exultation. What? How many chi refinement brats did you kill? Liang Yu put away a jade slip and asked with a smile. Hehe, I got some news again. Yen Yu whispered a few words to Liang Yu. Liang Yu frowned and said with displeasure. Senior Martial Brother Yen, this matter is clearly impossible. Why force yourself? Hehe, Junior Martial Brother Liang. Don't you want the storage pouches of those gold core cultivators? Don't you want Xiaohua's Samadhi True Fire cultivation method? Yen Yu laughed. Maybe Xiaohua's Samadhi True Fire was obtained from the storage pouches of those gold core cultivators. He's just an early foundation establishment brat, yet he can cultivate the Samadhi True Fire in just a few years. What if Junior Martial Brother Liang obtains the Samadhi True Fire? Besides, in the storage pouches of those gold core cultivators, there's probably something even better than the Samadhi True Fire, right? This thinking about how Xiaohua's early foundation establishment cultivation was actually able to deal with 3 heavenly demon sect disciples of the same cultivation level. Yen Yu naturally knew that Xiaohua obtained a lot from the storage pouches of those gold core cultivators. How could he not covet it? Seeing that Liang Yu was tempted, Yen Yu said again. According to my plan, we don't have to act against Xiaohua right now. Let's first see the attitude of the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, and Xiaohua's movements. After all, that's a gold core cultivator's storage pouch. I'm also somewhat tempted. If it weren't for the fact that I don't have absolute confidence right now, I'd definitely act myself. Why would I need to inform Junior Martial Brother? Yen Yu pondered for a long time, then gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Xiaohua's Samadhi True Fire is very powerful, and from what I heard, his flying technique is also very successful. I'm afraid the two of us won't be able to easily deal with him. We might even have to call Senior Martial Brothers Jieming and Qianhan over. And that's the only way. Yen Yu nodded and said, we also swore that if there's news of Xiaohua, we'll immediately send a message. Moreover, on the way back, I also thought a lot. Now that Xiaohua has the backing of Ardent Fire Mountain, besides the Imperial Thunder sect, he has to do it cleanly. We can't leave any hidden dangers. For this, I have to prepare something. Liang Yu was taken aback. His eyeballs spun a few times as he asked curiously, what other tricks does Senior Martial Brother Yen have up his sleeve? Hehe, this Yen will prepare for this matter alone. When I need Junior Brother Liang, I will naturally inform you. Yen Yu said with a smile. This is the only time. We absolutely cannot let Xiaohua escape. Junior Martial Brother Liang, please send the message talisman. I'll take a look at the shops in Haoming City. Alright. Liang Yu wasn't sure what Yen Yu wanted to do, so he could only nod and send out the transmission talisman. Inside Xiaohua's cave, the pill liquid of the Linglei pill had been refined. Under Xiaohua's alchemy technique, it had gradually fused. The two kinds of pill liquid, yin and yang, were fused smoothly under the condensation of the sky yin grass juice. Xiaohua sat upright in front of the cauldron, concentrating. Shui was also not in the alchemy room at this time. She was only sitting in the quiet room, meditating with her eyes closed, carefully comprehending the technique that Xiaohua gave her. This technique was very strange. It was completely different from what Shui practiced together, so it was quite strenuous. After a few more days, Xiaohua came out from the alchemy room, somewhat exhausted. Shui immediately opened her eyes and asked considerately, "Husband, did the refining go smoothly?" Who is your husband?" "He is a genius," Xiaohua boasted. "It's all a piece of cake, no big problems." Pfft. Shui covered her mouth and laughed. The previous faint worry had already disappeared. Looking at Xiaohua's exhausted appearance, she said, "Husband is tired. Why don't you let me accompany you for a walk?" Before my husband came, Senior Furong accompanied me to walk around Haoming City a few times. There were many good things in many shops. And it seems that there are also a few shops that sell talismans. According to Senior Furong, they are very powerful. Hearing that there were good things, Xiaohua's heart moved again. However, he immediately rejected this matter and said with a smile, "It's better to avoid trouble. The plan now is to cultivate quickly." Okay. Shui understood Xiaohua's heart and nodded. Then, she picked out a few difficult parts of the dragon transformation art, and asked Xiaohua. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days passed. On this day, Xiaohua was cultivating when he felt that there were some changes in the cave's restriction. When he swept out with his divine sense, a complicated expression appeared on his face. Seeing this, how could Shui not know what was going on? She smiled apologetically and said, "Did the people from the Ardent Fire Mountain come? This concubine will cultivate in the cave. This concubine will not participate in the auction." "And that's for the best." Xiaohua nodded. However, when Xiaohua was about to get up, Shui smiled and said, "Husband, did Fire Qilin come?" "And he came with Fire Furong." Xiaohua didn't hide it. "Then I will go out," Shui said with some hesitation. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Everything is up to my wife." When Xiaohua opened the cave's restriction, the first thing he saw was Fire Qilin directly ignoring him and looking behind him. When he saw that there was no one behind Xiaohua, he actually asked, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, where is fellow Taoist Shui? Why didn't she come out?" Xiaohua was speechless. Just when he was about to answer, Shui's voice was heard. "Senior Fire, may I know why Senior is looking for Junior?" Hearing Shui's voice, Fire Qilin's spirit was raised even more than when he took a nascent pregnancy pill. His eyes immediately lit up, and he cupped his hands and said, It's nothing. I just came to invite fellow Taoist Shui to participate in the auction." "Oh, the auction is a matter for nascent soul seniors. Junior is just an aura refining disciple, so I won't disturb you," Shui said with a smile. "It's just that my husband is a little curious, so he can go." "Husband? Who's your husband?" Fire Qilin actually asked such a stupid question. It really didn't match a middle-stage foundation-building cultivator. Fellow Taoist Fire, my wife's husband is naturally Xiaohua," Xiaohua said with a smile. "He's right in front of you." Oh, Fire Qilin was extremely disappointed, but he still didn't look at Xiaohua. He looked at Shui anxiously and asked, You really don't want to go?" "I won't go." Shui shook her head, but she immediately smiled again. Junior is at a critical juncture in her cultivation. However, Junior heard that Senior Fire was coming, so Junior came out to see you. "I want to." Without waiting for Shui to finish, Fire Qilin said in surprise, "Fellow Taoist Shui, you came out especially for me?" "And that's right." Shui nodded. Junior came to thank Senior Fire for begging in front of the 3 elders that day, and also to thank Senior for helping Junior and my husband. After saying that, Shui bowed. No need. Fire Qilin hurriedly reached out to help Shui, but Xiaohua blocked his way. Alright, Senior Fire, Junior has already thanked Senior. Junior wants to go back and cultivate. Shue Shue said with a smile. Junior hopes that Senior Fire can find a suitable dual cultivation partner like Junior. After saying that, Shue Shue turned around and entered her immortal's cave, not looking back again. Fire Qilin immediately looked as if he had lost his soul. Looking at Shue Shue's disappearing figure, he opened his mouth but didn't say a word. Fellow Taoist Xiao. At the side, Ho Furong didn't say anything. After waiting for Fire Qilin to finish speaking, she cupped her hands and said, Today is the day of the auction. I specially came to invite fellow Taoist Xiao. Alright, I'll have to trouble fellow Taoist Hua. Xiao Hua smiled and returned the greeting. He took out a magic tablet and activated the Immortal's Cave's restriction. Seeing the Immortal's Cave's door disappear in front of his eyes, Fire Qilin seemed to feel that all hope had disappeared, and there was a disheartened look in his eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Hua also felt some sympathy in his heart. He cupped his hands and said, Fellow Taoist Hua, these few days, my wife has been praising fellow Taoist's benevolence in front of me, and wanted to thank fellow Taoist for his great kindness. Now she can finally fulfill her wish. Ah, is that so? How did she praise I? Fire Qilin's eyes gave birth to a trace of spirit. Let's go, we'll talk as we walk, Xiao Hua said with a smile. He actually patted Fire Qilin's shoulder, and Fire Qilin actually let Xiao Hua come closer. Ho Furong shook her head as she watched from the side, but what could she say? Arriving in front of Ardent Fire Mountain's Immortal's Cave, a flame-shaped flying magic tool that seemed to be cast from gold and stone stopped in front of the door. The dazzling golden color refracted the glaring sunlight, and in Xiao Hua's eyes, it was like a ball of resplendent flame. At the edge of the flying magic tool, there were already several gold core and foundation establishment cultivators standing there. There were also many children who were dressed in embroidered clothes and had solemn expressions. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please wait a moment. Arriving in front of the flying magic tool, Ho Furong said in a low voice, Great-grandfather hasn't come out yet. We can only go up after he comes out. Okay, Xiao Hua agreed and stood respectfully at the side. At this moment, although Fire Qilin wasn't as dispirited as before, he was still somewhat dispirited and listless. It seemed that the words Xiao Hua said on the road weren't enough to dispel his infatuation. Not long after, a melodious sound came from inside the Immortal's Cave, and the three elders of Ardent Fire Mountain slowly walked out, surrounded by a group of Ardent Fire Mountain disciples. When the three elders of Ardent Fire Mountain arrived in front of the flying magic tool and saw Xiao Hua, their expressions were somewhat different. Hua Paikong and Hua Yixue coldly swept their gazes over, and Xiao Hua could feel the piercing gaze from afar. Hua Yixue lightly asked, Shue Shue didn't come? Without waiting for Xiao Hua to speak, Fire Qilin opened his mouth again. Okay, great-grandfather knows that Shue Shue is cultivating to break through to foundation establishment, so she can't come. Foundation establishment is just a matter of raising one's hand and hearing. If she knows, then this old man will let her reach foundation establishment today. Hua Yixue sneered. Hua Paikong unhappily said, I didn't ask you, stand aside. Yes, boy knows. Fire Qilin didn't refute and obediently stood to the side. Xiao Hua apologetically smiled and said, My junior sister's knowledge is shallow and doesn't dare to take up Ardent Fire Mountain's precious spot. She's also cultivating, so she can't go. And Hua Yixue nodded, looked up, and said a few words. On the flying magic tool, a golden core disciple bowed and said, Disciple understands. Chapter 2049. Let's go. Hua Zhishan said as he floated onto the flying magic artifact and sat on a jade chair. Xiao Hua and the others also boarded the flying magic artifact. Then, without waiting for Xiao Hua to stabilize himself, the foundation establishment disciples activated the magic artifact. A huge suction force appeared from the bottom of the flying magic artifact, blooming like a lotus flower. A series of rumbling sounds were heard as the entire flying magic artifact flew up. Contrary to Xiao Hua's expectations, the flying magic artifact didn't fly down the mountain, but straight up. Above the residence of a nascent soul cultivator, should be the residence of a spirit-severing cultivator. Could it be? Xiaohua was surprised, but the flying magic artifact flew up several dozen feet, and the mountain became steeper. Although the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rich, the layout was far from that of a nascent soul cultivator's residence. It couldn't even compare to a foundation establishment cultivator's residence. Xiaohua immediately understood. Although Haoming City was one of the 7 major cities in the country of Xi, it could only accommodate nascent soul cultivators. How could a spirit-severing cultivator come to Haoming City? Even if a spirit-severing cultivator came, Reverend Yan Hong would have to go out and welcome them. How could a spirit-severing cultivator stay here? The city lord's residence was more like it. After flying for a while, they arrived at a huge platform that occupied the entire mountain peak. Hua Zhishan's magic artifact rose up, but it didn't land on the platform. Instead, it floated in midair, as if waiting for something. Dang! A loud sound rang out. It was as if there were countless bells. 4 colors of brilliance blossomed on the platform, illuminating the entire sky. The previously unclear sky was now clear and bright. At this moment, Xiaohua noticed to his astonishment that there were actually around 20 flying magic tools parked around the enormous platform, and every single one of them was unique and extremely strange. When all sorts of magical artifacts appeared, more than 20 powerful divine senses swept out one after another. It seemed like they were spying, but also seemed like they were having a contest. Wang, another beehive-like sound rang out, and the platform began to vibrate. Gradually, the light fog was lifted, and a huge palace appeared on the platform. The palace was carved with pillars, and its style was simple and unadorned. It was very imposing, but in Xiaohua's eyes, it was a little strange. The pillars of the palace were abnormally thick, and the space was abnormally large. It was actually more than 10 times larger than an ordinary palace. Whoosh! A rainbow flew out from one of the palace gates and landed directly below Mount Hualai's flying artifact, supporting it. However, the rainbow didn't move at all, and the flying artifact didn't move at all. Hua Zhishan took out an oval-shaped badge and threw it into the rainbow. The rainbow emitted a burst of ripples and began to vibrate. As the rainbow shrank, the flying magic tool also began to move and gradually approached the palace. With a light boom, the flying magic tool leaned against a corner of the palace. The palace gates slowly opened, and 2 golden core cultivators walked out and respectfully lined up on either side of the palace gates. Let's go. Hua Zhishan stood up from his jade chair and walked towards the palace gates. Hua Zhishui and Hua Pekong didn't even look at Xiaohua and followed him. When Hua Zhishan got off the flying magic tool, the fire qilin and fire hibiscus nodded at Xiaohua and quickly followed him. The golden core disciple that Hua Zhishan sent a message to said, "Wait here, don't move around." Then the disciple also walked behind Xiaohua and got off the magic tool. Greetings, 3 seniors from Mount Hua. The 2 golden core cultivators who were waiting respectfully were rather polite as they bowed and said, "We're Haoming City's guest elders. We're here to welcome the 3 seniors. Thank you for your trouble." Hua Zhishan saw that the 2 cultivators were at the late golden core stage and didn't dare to be disrespectful. "Seniors, please come this way." The 2 cultivators didn't introduce themselves and only spread out their hands, inviting the 3 elders from Mount Hua to enter the palace gates. Hua Zhishan knew that the guests of Haoming City weren't disciples of Haoming City, but rather, they paid a special price to invite other cultivators to make decisions for Haoming City. Their backgrounds and sects were different from Haoming City, so he didn't dare to be disrespectful and slightly nodded before entering the palace gates. When it came to the fire qilin and fire hibiscus, they were even more humble and bowed, greeting the seniors. Naturally, Xiaohua also hurriedly bowed. The 2 gold core cultivators nodded slightly. When the last gold core cultivator from the Ardent Fire Mountain entered the palace, the 2 gold core cultivators glanced at each other and released their divine sense. After sweeping the palace gate for a moment, one of the cultivators extended his hand and took out a strange-looking Dharma tablet from his bosom. Under the activation of his magic power, it emitted a strange spiritual movement. The cultivator threw the magic tablet into the ground of the palace gates. A multicolored light appeared on the ground, wrapping around the palace gates. When the two Jindan stage cultivators walked through the palace gate, the multicolored light suddenly entered the palace gate. Xiaohua only felt a burst of chaos in front of his eyes. The perfectly straight path he saw earlier had already disappeared, and was replaced by a long suspended bridge. At the palace gates, after the multicolored light disappeared, the palace gates also disappeared, leaving only Mount Huajishan's flying magic tool floating in the air like a flame. This Xiaohua looked at the suspended bridge that Emo Zhao had appeared on, and was somewhat stunned. He was now a Foundation Establishment cultivator, and had even been to the core of Emo Zhao's Black Forest. He had seen many incredible things in the cultivation world. However, the suspended bridge under his feet was 10 feet wide, and was very transparent. There was a faint brilliance flowing on it. If not for the divine sense who could see it. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the entire palace seemed to be a boundless space. This transparent suspended bridge was crisscrossing, and there were thousands or tens of thousands of them. Moreover, under the suspended bridge, there seemed to be a bottomless abyss. Xiaohua probed with his divine sense, but there was no trace of a bottom. Moreover, Xiaohua stole a glance at the golden core cultivator beside him. There seemed to be a trace of surprise on his face. Obviously, even the divine sense of a golden core cultivator could not reach the bottom. Good heavens! The foundation of this Haoming city is too strong, isn't it? Xiaohua's eyes turned rapidly as he looked at the suspended bridge in the space that was almost a ball of thread. 3 seniors, please. 2 golden core cultivators appeared in front of Huajishan, and the others. They smiled slightly and led the way. Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoists. Huajishan smiled. In his heart he was similar to Xiaohua. However, he only looked at his 2 brothers and did not say anything. Although this suspended bridge was invisible, it was slightly soft when one stepped on it. Moreover, unlike other magic tools, it could not carry people. Xiaohua and the others could only cast spells and follow the golden core cultivators in front of them. Chapter 2050. Fortunately, although the atmosphere inside the palace was majestic, it didn't restrict one's cultivation. Apart from the faint sound of the wind outside the floating bridge, there was a kind of huge suction force that even divine senses couldn't escape. Everything else was similar to the outside of the palace. After walking for half the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the group had already arrived at the top of the floating bridge. At this time, the previously empty floating bridge was gradually filled with the silhouettes of other cultivators. Many divine senses also swept over. The divine senses of nascent soul cultivators were like eyes. After sweeping over, it was fine. However, one of the divine senses swept over the group from Blazing Fire Mountain again, and again. Not to mention Xiaohua, even Huafurong and the others were astonished. At this time, the 2 golden core cultivators in front of them heard this, and took out a magic tablet from their bosom. After activating it, they threw it on top of the floating bridge. Rumble. The entire floating bridge immediately shook. The other half of the floating bridge in front of them rapidly rose from the distance, and struck towards them like the tail of a spirit snake. Woo! With a burst of fierce wind, the floating bridge suddenly stopped in front of Xiaohua and the others. Then it began to fall. A burst of light and shadow changed. Before Xiaohua's eyes could react, a fortress-like building appeared in front of him. The 2 golden core cultivators were standing at the entrance of the fortress. 3 seniors, this is the entrance to Xiankong Pavilion. Forgive us for not being able to enter. The 2 golden core cultivators respectfully bowed and said, Senior, you can enter by following the path inside. Okay, Huajishan only slightly curled his lips. He knew that this was all deliberately done by Haoming City. He nodded and entered first. When Xiaohua entered and saw the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but be moved. He saw that this was a huge palace. In front of him was a path that was dozens of feet long, leading straight ahead. On both sides of the path, there was a huge statue every 10 feet or so. Good heavens! How is this a place where cultivators live? Xiaohua thought. This is probably a palace left behind by those celestials. Xiaohua naturally thought of the huge white bones in his space. If the white bones were to come back to life and walk in this huge palace, they would be able to bring out the best in each other. They would then look like dwarves. Sure enough, the fire Qilin, who hadn't made a sound for a long time and had been focused on Xiaohua's cave, also woke up and released his divine sense. After looking for a long time, he whispered, "Furong, this place seems to be related to my blazing fire mountain Qilin." Hua Shan in front coughed and scolded, "Qilin, don't talk too much. Use your eyes, use your ears, and use your heart." Yes, this boy understood Qilin's voice. Blazing fires of the mountain? Xiaohua's of the blazing fire Qilin. S's fire Qilin. SSS, let's go, Hua Shan called again. His body flew up and slowly floated towards the end of the road. Xiaohua flew in the air, but his divine sense was looking at the huge statues around him. These statues were either ferocious giants or ferocious beasts. They all had frightening faces. Moreover, he didn't know what these statues were made of, but his divine sense couldn't penetrate them. Xiaohua even used his Dharma eyes to secretly look at them a few times. He could see the outlines of the statues, but they were pale. Oh, these statues are actually somewhat similar to the Dharma idol in my space. Xiaohua's divine sense suddenly saw a statue. It was also a human body with a snake tail. However, this human body was a stalwart man. His face was firm and his muscles were bulging. Moreover, he was wearing a strange armor. In his hand was a weapon that looked like a fork. Just as Xiaohua's gaze focused on the statue and wanted to take a closer look, he heard a cold voice from afar. "Fellow Taoist Hua, you're really angry. You can even ignore I's invitation? Could it be that you think you can exchange that thing for something that you want at the auction in Haoming City?" Following that voice, naturally, there was a divine sense sweeping over. Xiaohua's heart trembled. Wasn't this the same divine sense that had swept over everyone on the floating bridge? Oh, isn't this Taoist Blue Feather from the immortal music sect of the Ming Kingdom? Hua Shan's voice sounded. He asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, when did you give me an invitation? Or did you send a disciple here with a token? It seems that I was drinking and chatting with your sect's two disciples, Li Qingxiu and Jiming, a few days ago. I didn't hear them mention you." I was the one who sent you a message during the banquet that day." Taoist Blue Feather still didn't appear, but her voice sounded. "Oh? Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, why?" Hua Shan interrupted. So it's a message talisman. This old man and the others have been in Haoming City for a long time. Every day, countless juniors would send a message talisman to our blazing fire mountain for no reason, asking to meet us. Why would we care about these boring message talismans? Every day, our disciples would place bets on these message talismans to see who would crush the most. I'm sure fellow Taoist Blue Feather's message talisman is among them. You Taoist Blue Feather's tone was a little angry. I sent you a message talisman, but you actually dared to let your disciples crush it. Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, Hua Shan laughed. The rule of the cultivation world in the kingdom of Shi has always been to return courtesy with courtesy. If our blazing fire mountain wants to pay a visit, the fellow Taoist of the Imperial Thunder sect will definitely send a disciple of our sect over on the first day. Although we have arranged a time, we can only pay a visit when the fellow Taoist of the Imperial Thunder sect has the time. Otherwise, our blazing fire mountain may be regarded by the Imperial Thunder sect as a sect that doesn't know etiquette and is a low-class cultivator. Oh, perhaps the rules of the Kingdom of Meng are different from those of the Kingdom of Shi. This old man will go back and take a look. I want to know which disciple, who doesn't know the importance of etiquette, actually dared to crush the message talisman of the famous immortal music sect's Taoist Blue Feather. Hua Shan's last sentence was one word at a time. He especially emphasized the words message talisman. Ha ha ha, Taoist Blue Feather laughed instead of being angry. Brilliant idea, brilliant idea. This old man's trip to Haoming City has really broadened my horizons. When did the blazing fire mountain become so unyielding, daring to sneer at our immortal music sect like a needle hidden in cotton? Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, Hua Shan laughed. Did my brother's words offend the immortal music sect? We three brothers of the blazing fire mountain have always spoken without meaning. Everyone in the kingdom of Shi knows this. Why is it that when it comes to fellow Taoist Blue Feather, it becomes a needle hidden in cotton? If there's a needle hidden in cotton, wouldn't it be obvious with a sweep of your divine sense? Following the voice, a short and stout cultivator's silhouette faintly flashed in the air above Huazhishan and the others. There was actually a strange ear-piercing sound. Tch, Huapai Kong flicked his sleeve, and the silhouette shattered like glass. He sneered. Fellow Taoist Blue Feather's name is not bad, but your appearance has nothing to do with elegance. There's no need to show off here. No matter how elegant I am, I'm still better looking than you three ugly ghosts. Taoist Blue Feather laughed. When your nascent soul formed your body, you didn't even know to modify it a little. You're really embarrassing the kingdom of Shi's cultivators. This old man doesn't want to fix it. So what? Huapai Kong stomped his feet. This old man still wants to use this face to scare people. Third brother, why are you being so long-winded with him? Huazhishan sneered. In any case, is my Blazing Fire Mountain a small sect that judges people by their appearance? You Taoist Blue Feather was at a loss for words when facing the three elders of the Blazing Fire Mountain. I want to see if you can get what you want in the auction. Don't come begging for I when the time comes. You don't have to worry about that. Huapai Kong sneered. At worst, this old man will take it back to raise my children. Then Taoist Blue Feather's voice disappeared. The three elders of the Blazing Fire Mountain continued to fly slowly. Ding! Another chime sounded, and a suction force suddenly appeared from the path. Xiaohua was shocked. Just as he was about to move, he heard a faint voice say, Fellow Taoists, the way to enter the Xiankong Pavilion is rather special. Please do not resist. Not to mention Xiaohua. Even Huazhishan was a little embarrassed and angry. They were just participating in the auction. Although the opponents were all nascent soul cultivators, and the rewards would be plentiful, Haoming City repeatedly played these tricks. They were really petty. However, they had already come this far, and Huazhishan and the others seemed to be unable to turn back. This situation was really annoying. At this moment, the suction force on the path grew stronger, and its direction changed, going straight ahead. Forget it. Huazhishan flicked his sleeves and said coldly, I want to see what tricks Haoming City is playing. As he spoke, light flashed around his body, and only a protective brilliance appeared. His figure gradually flew forward along with the suction force. Xiaohua and the others naturally followed closely behind. This speed seems to be getting faster. However, as the suction force increased, Xiaohua and the others' flying speed also increased. In just a few breaths, they had already surpassed the flying speed of a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Moreover, their speed was still increasing. The pressure around them also increased. Whoosh! Huapai Kong, who was the closest to Xiaohua and the others, frowned slightly. He stretched his right hand behind him and gently flicked his middle finger. A meteor-like brilliance appeared, and the brilliance exploded in midair, forming a layer of light that tightly covered Xiaohua, Hibiscus, and the fire Qilin. Although he felt the pressure disappear, Xiaohua smiled bitterly in his heart. Previously, when he saw the increase in speed, he was secretly delighted. He practiced the lightning evasion technique, and speed had always been his forte. If he could see an even faster evasion technique after the bright lightning evasion technique, especially if he could experience it himself, it would be even more beneficial to his lightning evasion technique. Unfortunately, Huapai Kong's finger had shattered all of his hopes. Chapter 2051. Let's go. Huazhishan said, and his figure floated onto the flying magic tool. He sat on a jade chair and coldly looked into the distance. Xiaohua and the others immediately boarded the flying magic tool. Then, without waiting for Xiaohua to stabilize himself, the group of Foundation Establishment disciples urged the magic tool. A huge suction force appeared from the bottom of the flying magic tool, and a flame bloomed like a lotus flower. A series of rumbling sounds slowly came out, and the entire flying magic tool flew up. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, the flying magic tool didn't fly down the mountain, but straight up. It passed through Ardent Fire Mountain's Immortal's Cave and many restrictions. Above the residence of a nascent soul cultivator, should be the residence of a spirit-severing cultivator. Could it be? Xiaohua was a bit surprised, but the flying magic tool flew up several dozen feet, and the mountain became steeper. Although the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rich, the layout was far from the residence of a nascent soul cultivator. It couldn't even compare to the residence of a foundation establishment cultivator. Oh, Xiaohua immediately understood. Although Haoming City was one of the 7 major cities in the country of Xi, it could only accommodate nascent soul cultivators. How could a spirit-severing cultivator come to Haoming City? Even if a spirit-severing cultivator came, Taoist Master Yao Hong would have to go out and welcome them. How could a spirit-severing cultivator stay here? The city lord's mansion was more like it. After flying for a while, they actually arrived at a huge platform, directly occupying the entire mountain peak. Ardent Fire Mountain's magic tool rose up, but it didn't land on the platform. Instead, it floated in midair, as if waiting for something. Dang! A loud sound rang out. It was as if there were countless bells. 4 colors of brilliance blossomed on the platform, illuminating the entire sky. The previously unclear sky was now clear and bright. At this moment, Xiaohua noticed to his astonishment that there were actually around 20 flying magic tools parked around the enormous platform, and every single one of them was unique and extremely strange. When all sorts of magical artifacts appeared, more than 20 powerful divine senses swept out one after another. They seemed to be spying, but also seemed to be competing. Wong, another beehive-like sound rang out, and the platform began to vibrate. Gradually, the light fog was lifted, and a huge palace appeared on the platform. The palace was carved with pillars, and its style was simple and unadorned. It was very imposing, but in Xiaohua's eyes, it was a little strange. The pillars of the palace were abnormally thick, and the space was abnormally large. It was actually more than 10 times larger than an ordinary palace. Whoosh! A rainbow flew out from one of the palace gates and landed directly below Mount Hualai's flying artifact, supporting it. However, the rainbow didn't move at all, and the flying artifact didn't move at all. Hua Zhishan reached out and took out an oval badge. He casually threw it into the rainbow. The rainbow emitted a burst of ripples and began to vibrate. As the rainbow shrank, the flying magic tool also began to move and gradually approached the palace. Boom! The flying magic tool leaned against a corner of the palace. The palace gate slowly opened, and 2 golden core cultivators walked out and respectfully lined up on either side of the palace gates. Let's go! Hua Zhishan stood up from his jade chair and walked towards the palace gates. Hua Zhishui and Hua Pekong didn't even look at Xiaohua and followed him. When Hua Zhishan got off the flying artifact, the fire qilin and fire hibiscus nodded at Xiaohua and quickly followed him. The golden core disciple that Hua Zhishan sent a message to said, "Wait here, don't move around." Then the disciple also walked behind Xiaohua and got off the artifact. Greetings, 3 seniors from Mount Hualai. The 2 golden core cultivators who were waiting respectfully were rather polite as they bowed and said, "We are Haoming City's guest elders. Welcome, seniors. Thank you for your trouble." Hua Zhishan saw that the 2 cultivators were at the late stage of the golden core, and didn't dare to be disrespectful. "Seniors, please come this way." The 2 cultivators didn't introduce themselves and only spread out their hands, inviting the 3 elders from Mount Hualai to enter the palace gates. Hua Zhishan knew that the guests of Haoming City weren't disciples of Haoming City, but rather, they paid a special price to invite other cultivators to make decisions for Haoming City. Their backgrounds and sects were different from Haoming City, so he didn't dare to be disrespectful and slightly nodded before entering the palace gates. When it came to the fire qilin and fire hibiscus, they were even more humble and bowed, greeting the seniors. Naturally, Xiaohua also hurriedly bowed. The 2 gold core cultivators nodded slightly. When the last gold core cultivator from the Ardent Fire Mountain entered the palace, the 2 gold core cultivators glanced at each other and released their divine sense. After sweeping the palace gate for a moment, one of the cultivators extended his hand and took out a strange-looking Dharma tablet from his bosom. Under the activation of his magic power, it emitted a strange spiritual movement. The cultivator threw the magic tablet into the ground of the palace gates. A multicolored light appeared on the ground and wrapped around the palace gates. When the two Jindan stage cultivators walked through the palace gate, the multicolored light suddenly entered the palace gate. Xiaohua only felt a burst of chaos in front of his eyes. The perfectly straight path he saw earlier had already disappeared, and was replaced by a long suspended bridge. At the palace gates, after the multicolored light disappeared, the palace gates also disappeared. Only the flying magic tool of Mount Hualai was left floating in the air like a flame. This Xiaohua looked at the suspended bridge that Mo Zhao had appeared on, and was somewhat stunned. He was now a foundation-building cultivator, and had even been to the core of Mo Zhao Black Forest. He had seen many incredible things in the cultivation world. However, the suspended bridge under his feet was 10 feet wide, and was very transparent. There was a faint brilliance flowing on it. If one didn't use their divine sense to scan it, who could see it? This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the entire palace seemed to be a boundless space. This transparent suspended bridge was crisscrossing and crisscrossing. He didn't know how many thousands or tens of thousands of them there were. Moreover, under the suspended bridge, there seemed to be a bottomless abyss. Xiaohua used his divine sense to explore it, but there was no trace of a bottom. Moreover, Xiaohua stole a glance at the golden core cultivator of Mount Hualai beside him. There seemed to be a trace of surprise on his face. Obviously, even the divine sense of a golden core cultivator couldn't reach the bottom. Good heavens! The foundation of Haoming City is too strong, isn't it? Xiaohua's eyes turned rapidly as he looked at the suspended bridge in the space that was almost a ball of thread. 3 seniors, please. 2 golden core cultivators appeared in front of Huazhishan and the others. They smiled slightly and led the way. Thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoists. Huazhishan smiled. In his heart he was similar to Xiaohua. However, he only looked at his 2 brothers and didn't say anything. Although the suspended bridge was invisible, stepping on it made one feel a little soft. Moreover, unlike other magic tools, it could not carry people. Xiaohua and the others could only use magic techniques to follow the golden core cultivators in front of them as they moved forward. Chapter 2052. Fortunately, although the atmosphere inside the palace was majestic, it didn't restrict one's cultivation. Apart from the faint sound of the wind outside the floating bridge, there was a kind of force that sucked people downwards. Even their divine senses couldn't avoid it. Everything else was similar to the outside of the palace. After walking for half the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the group had already arrived at the top of the floating bridge. At this time, the previously empty floating bridge was gradually filled with the figures of other cultivators. Many divine senses were also sweeping over. The divine senses of nascent soul cultivators were like eyes. After sweeping over them, it was fine. However, one of the divine senses swept over the group from Blazing Fire Mountain again and again. Not to mention Xiaohua, even Huafurong and the others were astonished. Who is being rude? Xiaohua frowned as he thought to himself. At this time, the 2 golden core cultivators in front of him heard this, and took out a magic tablet from their bosom. After activating it, they threw it on top of the floating bridge. Rumble! The entire floating bridge immediately shook. The other half of the floating bridge in front of them rapidly rose from the distance, and struck towards them like the tail of a spirit snake. Woo! With a sharp gust of wind, the floating bridge suddenly stopped in front of Xiaohua and the others. Then it began to descend. With a burst of light and shadow, before Xiaohua's eyes could react, a fortress-like structure appeared in front of him. The 2 golden core cultivators were standing at the entrance of the fortress. 3 seniors, this is the entrance to Xiankong Pavilion. Forgive us for not being able to enter. The 2 golden core cultivators respectfully bowed and said, Senior, you just need to follow the path inside and enter. Okay, Huazhishan only slightly curled his lips. He knew that this was all deliberately done by Haoming City. He nodded and entered. When Xiaohua entered and saw the scene in front of him, he couldn't help but be moved. He saw that this was a huge palace. In front of him was a path that was dozens of feet long. It led straight ahead, and on both sides of the path there was a huge statue every 10 feet or so. Good heavens! How is this a place where cultivators live? Xiaohua thought to himself. This is probably a palace left behind by those celestials. Xiaohua naturally thought of the huge white bones in his space. If the white bones were to come back to life and walk in this huge palace, they would be able to bring out the best in each other. They would then look like dwarves. Sure enough, the fire Qilin, who hadn't made a sound for a long time and had been focused on Xiaohua's cave, also woke up and released his divine sense. After looking for a long time, he said in a low voice, "Furong, this place seems to be related to my blazing fire mountain cough cough." Hua Yishui coughed and scolded. "Qilin, don't talk too much. Just use your eyes, ears, and heart to remember." Yes, boy understands. Even though the fire Qilin was a fool, he wasn't stupid. He had just blurted it out, and was now on guard. The ardent fire mountain also has such a place? Xiaohua naturally heard it. These places are probably ancient ruins. Who knows, there might be some secret techniques left behind from ancient times. "Let's go," Hua Yishui called out again. His figure flew up and slowly floated towards the end of the road. Xiaohua flew in the air, but his divine sense was looking at the huge statues around him. These statues were either ferocious giants or ferocious beasts. All of them had frightening faces. Moreover, he didn't know what these statues were made of. His divine sense couldn't penetrate them. Xiaohua even used his Dharma eyes to secretly look at them a few times. He could actually see the outlines of the statues, but they were pale white. These statues are actually somewhat similar to the Dharma idol in my space. Xiaohua's divine sense suddenly saw a statue. It was also a human body with a snake tail. However, this human body was a stalwart man. His face was firm and his muscles were bulging. Moreover, he was wearing a strange armor and held a fork-like weapon in his hand. Just as Xiaohua focused his gaze on the statue and wanted to take a closer look, he heard a cold voice from afar. "Fellow Taoist Hua, you're really angry. You can even ignore Ai's invitation? Could it be that you think you can exchange that thing for something that you want at the auction in Haoming City?" Following that voice, naturally, there was a divine sense sweeping over. Xiaohua's heart trembled. Wasn't this divine sense the one that swept over everyone on the floating bridge? Isn't this Taoist blue feather from the immortal music sect of the Meng Kingdom? Hua Yishui's voice sounded. He asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist blue feather, when did you give me an invitation? Or did you send a disciple with a token? It seems that I was drinking and chatting with your sect's two disciples, Li Qingxiu and Jiming, a few days ago. I didn't hear them mention you." I was the message talisman you sent that day at the banquet." Taoist blue feather still didn't appear, but her voice sounded. "Oh? Fellow Taoist blue feather, why?" Hua Yishui interrupted. So it's a message talisman. We've been in Haoming City for a long time. Every day, countless juniors would send message talismans to our blazing fire mountain for no reason, asking to meet us. Why would we care about these boring message talismans? Every day, the boys under the sect would place bets on these communication talismans to see who could crush the most talismans. I'm sure fellow Taoist Blue Feather's message talisman is among them. You Taoist Blue Feather's tone was a little angry. I sent you a message talisman, but you actually dared to let your disciples crush it. Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, Hua Yishui laughed. The rule of the cultivation world in the kingdom of Shi has always been to return courtesy with courtesy. If our blazing fire mountain wants to pay a visit, fellow Taoist from the Imperial Thunder sect will definitely send a disciple of our sect over on the first day. Although we've arranged a time, we can only pay a visit after the fellow Taoist from the Imperial Thunder sect has time. Otherwise, our blazing fire mountain might be seen as a sect that doesn't know etiquette by the Imperial Thunder sect. An unorthodox cultivator. Perhaps the rules of the Kingdom of Meng are different from those of the Kingdom of Shi. I'll go back and take a look. I'll see which disciple, who doesn't know the severity of the matter and etiquette, actually dared to crush the message talisman of the famous immortal music sect, Taoist Blue Feather. Hua Yishui's last sentence was one word at a time. He especially emphasized the three words, message talisman. Ha ha ha. Taoist Blue Feather laughed instead of being angry. Brilliant, brilliant. This trip to Haoming City has really broadened my horizons. When did the blazing fire mountain become so unyielding, daring to mock our immortal music sect like a needle hidden in cotton? Fellow Taoist Blue Feather, Wuxia laughed. Did my brother's words offend the immortal music sect? Our three brothers of the blazing fire mountain have always spoken without meaning. Everyone in the kingdom of Shi knows this. Why is it that when it comes to fellow Taoist Blue Feather, it becomes a needle hidden in cotton? If there's a needle hidden in cotton, wouldn't you be able to detect it with a sweep of your divine sense? Following the voice, a short and fat cultivator's silhouette faintly flashed in the air above Wuxia and the others. There was actually a strange ear-piercing sound. Tch, Pai Kong flicked his sleeve, and the silhouette shattered like glass. He sneered. Fellow Taoist Blue Feather's name is not bad, but your appearance has nothing to do with elegance. There's no need to show off here. No matter how elegant I am, I'm still better looking than you three ugly ghosts. Taoist Blue Feather laughed. When your nascent soul formed your body, you didn't even know to modify it a little. You're really embarrassing the kingdom of Shi's cultivators. This old man doesn't want to fix it. So what? Pai Kong stomped his feet. This old man still wants to use this face to scare people. Third brother, why are you being so long-winded with him? Wuxia sneered. Anyway, is my blazing fire mountain a small sect that judges people by their appearance? You Taoist Blue Feather was at a loss for words when facing the three elders of the blazing fire mountain. I want to see if you can get what you want in the auction. Don't come begging for I when the time comes. You don't have to worry about that. Pai Kong sneered. If worse comes to worst, this old man will take it back to raise my children. Then Taoist Blue Feather's voice disappeared. The three elders of the blazing fire mountain continued to fly slowly. Dang. Another chime sounded, and a suction force suddenly appeared from the path. Xiaohua was shocked. Just as he was about to move, he heard a faint voice say, Fellow Taoists, the way to enter the Xiankong Pavilion is a little special. Please don't resist. Not to mention Xiaohua, even Huazhishan was a little embarrassed and angry. They were just participating in the auction. Although the opponents were all nascent soul cultivators, and the rewards would be plentiful, Haoming City repeatedly played these tricks. They were really petty. However, they had already come this far, and Huazhishan and the others seemed to be unable to turn back. This situation was really annoying. At this moment, the suction force on the path grew stronger, and its direction changed, going straight ahead. Forget it. Huazhishan flicked his sleeves and said coldly, I want to see what tricks Haoming City is playing. As he spoke, light flashed around his body, and only a protective brilliance appeared. His figure gradually flew forward along with the suction force. Xiaohua and the others naturally followed closely behind. This speed seems to be getting faster. However, as the suction force increased, Xiaohua and the others' flying speed also increased. In just a few breaths, they had already surpassed the flying speed of a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Moreover, their speed was still increasing. The pressure around them also increased. Whoosh! Pai Kong, who was the closest to Xiaohua and the others, frowned slightly. He stretched his right hand behind him and gently flicked his middle finger. A meteor-like brilliance appeared, and the brilliance exploded in midair, forming a layer of light that tightly covered Xiaohua, Hibiscus, and the fire Qilin. Although he felt the pressure disappear, Xiaohua smiled bitterly in his heart. When he saw the increase in speed, he was secretly delighted. He practiced the lightning evasion technique, and speed had always been his forte. If he could see an even faster evasion technique after the bright lightning evasion technique, especially if he could experience it himself, it would be even more beneficial to his lightning evasion technique. Unfortunately, Pai Kong's finger had shattered all of his hopes. Chapter 2053. Putting aside Xiaohua's gloominess, Huazhishan and the others were flying faster and faster. When they reached a certain limit, sparks appeared on the light barrier around Xiaohua and the others. Even the nascent soul cultivators' expressions changed. Xiaohua and the others felt as if they had bumped into something and stopped again. It was as if they had broken through an extremely powerful restriction. Xiao Hua and the others arrived at another place. Hiss, when Xiao Hua came back to his senses, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. At this time, everyone was standing in the void. The void was boundless and showed endless secrets. In the void, there were countless spheres of various sizes. Above Xiao Hua and the others, there was a fireball that was tens of thousands of feet large, and emitted flames that were hundreds of thousands of feet wide. It was quietly floating. Die. Sky Dao Starry Sky? Xiao Hua couldn't help but groan in his heart. He originally thought that his Sky Dao Starry Sky was the only one in the world. However, seeing something similar to the Sky Dao Starry Sky in his own space, he knew that there were many powerful cultivators in the world. It seems something is wrong. Xiao Hua was surprised at first, but then he sensed that all the spheres and the starry sky were lifeless. They didn't understand anything at all. They were far from the mysterious changes in his space. Xiao Hua's eyes turned and looked at the Fire Qilin and the others. Sure enough, it wasn't just Xiao Hua who was surprised. Everyone from Ardent Fire Mountain was also stunned. Ha ha ha, a voice resounded through the entire starry sky. Then, like a curtain being lifted, the entire void disappeared with a whoosh. A bright sunny day appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Moreover, to the left of Xiao Hua and the others, more than 20 nascent soul cultivators appeared in the void. Xiao Hua followed the light and looked down. Under his feet was the platform that everyone had entered from. Many flying artifacts were quietly parked around the platform. Fellow Taoists, forgive I for being presumptuous. A tall and dignified middle-aged man with a horsetail whisk in his hand, and a light golden Taoist crown on his head appeared in the void. He stood at the same level as everyone and cupped his hands in greeting. This is the Xiankong Pavilion that my Haoming city obtained more than 10,000 years ago. Because the restriction inside is too ancient, it hasn't been completely broken. Until today, only a small part of it can be used. I used the Xiankong Pavilion as the venue for today's auction. This is where I's sincerity lies. Hee. Hua Picong was the first to sneer. Yan Hong, I didn't come to participate in the auction to be humiliated by your Ming city. Time and time using some restriction magical ability. Do you think that only your Haoming city has ancient ruins from ancient times? Hua Picong's temper was not good. This was obviously what the other nascent soul cultivators thought as well. So everyone was silent. Reverend Yan Hong wasn't angry. He waved the horsetail whisk in his hand and said with a smile, if you want to explore the mysteries of the great Tao, you must have great methods. It seems that no one can understand my painstaking efforts. Great Tao? A slightly exaggerated voice sounded. Yan Hong, you're saying that your Xiankong Pavilion actually has the mystery of the great Tao. Hee, as expected of the Imperial Thunder Sex Miyu, your knowledge is extraordinary. Yan Hong smiled as he looked across from Xiao Hua. Over there were several golden core cultivators from the Imperial Thunder sect. Mystery of the great Tao. Hearing Miyu's words, the expressions of several nascent soul cultivators who knew some ancient secrets changed. Yan Hong, this is the legendary Void Palace that was built by the ancient celestials? The Void Palace that is said to be able to turn one's body into a saint just by peering into its mystery? Alas, when the seniors of my Haoming city obtained this palace, they also thought so. They all wanted to comprehend the great Tao from it, and peek into the mysteries of heaven before reaching the great ascension stage. Unfortunately, how could we have such fate? Yan Hong smiled bitterly. This is just a magic tool that looks like an ancient palace. The Xiankong Pavilion inside has some great Tao, but this starry sky is lifeless. There's nothing to comprehend. Otherwise, how could I dare to take this thing out? Am I not afraid of being distracted by the seniors? In fact, to tell you the truth, I have already asked a senior to look at it. It should be an imitation. It has the shape but not the essence. Oh, the nascent soul cultivators were all regretful and glad at the same time. Although it's an imitation, it may give us a glimpse into the situation of the ancient Void Palace. I appreciate fellow Taoist Yan Hong's painstaking efforts. A handsome female cultivator said with a smile. Thank you for the praise, Fairy Miao Chong of the Five Elements sect. I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Yan Hong patted his chest and smiled. Hee hee, Fairy Miao Chong covered her mouth and laughed. Since we have seen the ancient palace of Haoming City, shouldn't fellow Taoist Yan Hong's auction begin? Yes, I will begin now. Yan Hong clapped his hands, and there seemed to be some fluctuations of spiritual power. Then the void began to change again. Many jade tables appeared in front of everyone. According to the number of nascent soul cultivators, the jade chairs also appeared in front of everyone. In the end, a ring-shaped brilliance connected the jade tables together. Xiaohua was still amazed at first. He couldn't tell whether this thing rising out of the void was Yan Hong's spell, or the Xiankong Pavilion's forbidden spell. However, when the ring-shaped brilliance appeared, Xiaohua understood that these jade tables and chairs were prepared and definitely not born out of thin air. Fellow Taoists, Yan Hong stood at the head of the table without a disciple beside him and said with a smile, "Fellow Taoists, you are all nascent soul cultivators of the sects in the three kingdoms of cultivation. I think you are all familiar with each other, so I won't introduce you one by one. As for the fellow Taoists dressed in camouflage robes, I also know their origins. I can guarantee the origin of these fellow Taoists. Of course, if any fellow Taoist has any objections, you can withdraw from the auction now. I and the other fellow Taoists won't stop you." After waiting for a while and seeing that no one responded, Yan Hong raised his hand and said, "Fellow Taoists, please sit down." My Haoming City's once-in-a-century auction officially begins. Once everyone was seated, Taoist Yan Hong said, "Thank you, fellow Taoists. Our vast brilliant city holds this auction once every 100 years. Firstly, it's a chance for us nascent soul cultivators to exchange cultivation experiences. Secondly, it's a chance for us to exchange cultivation experiences. In view of this, starting from today, within 10 days, my Haoming City will also hold auctions for cultivators of different realms. This is also a scene in my country of Xi. My Haoming City will also profit a lot because of this." Chapter 2054. Fellow Taoist Yao Hong, you seem to have to say this once every 100 years. I'm tired of hearing it. Can you use some new words? A withered cultivator said indifferently. Hee hee, fellow Taoist Qi Jianghai. You said the same thing last time, right? Reverend Yan Hong didn't seem to be angry and replied, "I wonder what good things your Shanghua sect can take out this time? I'm a cultivator of the Shanghua sect, but this time I did it myself. It has nothing to do with the sect." Qi Jianghai was still as cold as ever. Then, he rolled his eyes and looked at the other old man who looked to be in his 50s. Unlike a certain someone, every time he uses the name of Qiqiao sect, the things he brings out are worthless. Old man Qi, who did you say used the 7 Skills sect's banner? An old man around 50 years old answered and slapped the table in front of him. The table instantly turned into fragments. "I just sat down and you won't let me feel at ease?" Reverend Kuyi. Reverend Yan Hong immediately waved his hand and smiled. "Fellow Taoist Qi is only joking. Every time, fellow Taoist will be tricked." He isn't that so? Last time, wasn't it because Kuyi got angry that fellow Taoist Qi took the lead? Reverend Miyu said with a smile. Ever since he appeared in Xiankong Pavilion, he didn't even look at Xiaohua. It was as if he had never seen Xiaohua before. Reverend Kuyi from the 7 Skills sect seemed to have suffered from Qi Jianghai's trick before. He coldly snorted and sat down. Reverend Yan Hong waved his sleeve, and another table appeared in front of Reverend Kuyi. "Fine, I won't say anything more. The rules of this auction are the same every year. The only thing that changes is the location of the auction, and the positions of fellow Taoists." Reverend Yan Hong nodded. "Let's start from my right hand. Fellow Taoists will take out the items one by one and will bid. We'll bid according to fellow Taoists' conditions." Reverend Yan Hong glanced at the cultivator in camouflage clothing on his right hand and said, "Fellow Taoist, please." Immediately after, Taoist Master Yan Hong sat down. The cultivator in the camouflage robe stood up and a hoarse voice sounded. "This thing of mine is a bit strange, so I can't meet you with my original appearance." As he spoke, the cultivator slapped his hand and took out a long sword that was over a foot long from his storage pouch. He placed it on the table and said, "This old man obtained this from the Mo Zhao Black Forest. In my opinion, this flying sword belongs to Changbai sect's Reverend Bright Sword." Ah, immortal bright sword of the Changbai sect? Everyone was stunned when they heard this. They all looked at a cultivator with sword-like eyebrows that reached his temples, and a very arrogant expression on his face. And what about Xiaohua? Their expressions changed several times. There was no restriction on divine sense in the Xiankong Pavilion. Everyone's divine sense had already scanned the area when the cultivator took out the long sword. Xiaohua also released his divine sense. He had a deep impression of this long sword. After all, he had died once under that sword. Could it be that there are also nascent soul cultivators in Inkcloud Black Forest? Xiaohua was shocked and couldn't help but release his divine sense. However, when he saw the appearance of the long sword, he was slightly stunned and showed a trace of understanding. This sword was similar to the sword that had killed Xiaohua, but there seemed to be something missing. But what exactly was missing, Xiaohua couldn't say for the time being. After all, Reverend Brightsword's so-called sword intent had been stored in Xiaohua's space along with his long sword. Reverend Brightsword had clearly said that Xiaohua's long sword was not the long sword he usually used. The arrogant cultivator was Changbai sect's Li Tsangqing. When he saw everyone looking at him, he sneered. "Reverend Brightsword is a senior of my Changbai sect. His sword technique is something I can't compare to. Moreover, his Dao is still spreading in my Changbai sect. I can't be sure if this long sword is his or not. Of course, my Dao sect's flying sword is different from the flying sword of sword cultivators. It doesn't have a sword spirit. Even if someone can comprehend the essence of my Changbai sect's sword technique, it would be extremely difficult. Fellow Taoist, is this what you want?" "Hehe, I am not as despicable as fellow Taoist Li says." The Miwan cultivator also replied, "I got this long sword. I don't specialize in flying swords, so I brought it out for everyone to see. Perhaps some of you will like it?" "That's easy. Fellow Taoist, how about we take a look at the long sword?" Taoist Master Withered Leaf from the Seven Skills sect said with a smile. His gaze swept towards Qi Jianghai. "Of course." The Miwan cultivator slapped his hand, and the long sword slowly moved towards Taoist Withered Leaf through the halo on the table. Oh! Xiaohua now understood that the halo had such a use. Sure enough, when the long sword arrived in front of Taoist Withered Leaf, he didn't take the long sword from the halo. Instead, he pulled the long sword out of the scabbard and carefully examined it. Then he narrowed his eyes. No one knew what he was planning. "I also want to take a look." The Blue Li sect's Xian Yunzi slammed the table in the distance, and the longsword slowly arrived in front of him. Taoist Withered Leaf seemed to have thought it through and asked in a low voice, "Fellow Taoist, how would you like to exchange for this longsword?" "Hehe, although I don't use the longsword, I am currently refining a magic treasure. I am missing a few materials. All space gold, tranquil stone, secret gong, fan tong, and Qingling moon. If Taoist Withered Leaf has these 5 materials, then this long sword will be yours." "What? You?" Taoist Master Withered Leaf was stunned. Owl space metal is an ethereal material. Any magic tool or magic treasure that has owl space metal added to it will not only have its weight reduced by 30%, it will also be able to avoid detection by spiritual sense. Tranquil stone can remove the restrictions of the 5 elements. Secret gong can increase the hardness of magic treasures. Needless to say, they are all rare materials used to refine magic treasures. With just one of those materials, the quality of magic treasures will rise to a new level. Fellow Taoist actually wants 5 materials in one go. Isn't this asking for too much? Forget it, fellow Taoist. I won't be thinking about this long sword. Then how many materials does fellow Taoist have? The Miemo cultivator was not surprised and only asked. "I only have secret gong and fan tong," Taoist Withered Leaf said unhappily. "I still want to use them to refine magic treasures." "Fellow Taoist Withered Leaf, your secret gong and fan tong. Can you trade with I?" the distant Xian Yunzi said. "Oh. Fellow Taoist Xian Yunzi is actually interested in these things?" Taoist Withered Leaf was slightly stunned and nodded. I have accumulated a lot of secret gong and fan tong to refine magic treasures. I can trade with fellow Taoist Xian Yunzi. Okay. Xian Yunzi immediately sent a sound transmission to Taoist Withered Leaf to discuss the price. The distant Hua Hibiscus sent a sound transmission to Xiao Hua. Fellow Taoist Xiao, Taoist Brightsword's long sword is a bidding item. Its price must be known by everyone and cannot be transmitted through sound transmission. The transaction between Senior Withered Leaf and Senior Xian Yunzi is private and can only be known by the two of them. In addition, if Senior Xian Yunzi only has one or two of the materials, he can also ask other seniors for the remaining materials. Similarly, the transaction will be completed through sound transmission. Oh, Xiaohua nodded slightly. This kind of bidding method guaranteed the completion of the transaction to the greatest extent. It would not make a nascent soul cultivator come all the way here. Sure enough, after Taoist Withered Leaf and Xian Yunzi finished their discussion, Xian Yunzi had a satisfied expression. He raised his head and asked, I only have Owl Space Gold and Tranquility Stone. Now I still lack Qingling Moon. I wonder which fellow Taoist has this item? I am willing to trade. Unexpectedly, after Xian Yunzi's voice fell for a long time, perhaps falling into the mountain range of Haoming City, there was still no response. Xian Yunzi was somewhat helpless and almost mocked. Alas, I was also a bit impatient. This Qingling Moon is a magic treasure. How can it be easy to obtain? If a magic treasure can obtain a drop, it can be upgraded to a spirit tool. Immediately, Xian Yunzi raised his head again and said, Fellow Taoist, I only have these 4 materials. Do you want to trade? The cultivator did not answer directly, but whispered, Fellow Taoists, are you not interested in this flying sword? Hee. The others did not answer, but Li Tsungqing laughed coldly. His laughter did not matter, but Xian Yunzi's face showed hesitation. Forget it, fellow Taoist, I will also take a step back. This flying sword is yours. The Miho cultivator sighed and said. He took a step back, but Xian Yunzi was somewhat hesitant. What? Fellow Taoist, you don't want it anymore? The Miho cultivator laughed and said. This flying sword belongs to Taoist Bright Sword. Moreover, looking at the sword body, it is not like what we expected. The sword body is damaged, so I risked my cultivation to find this item. Let's not talk about the refining of the flying sword. I believe fellow Taoist Li knows better than I. Fellow Taoist Xian Yunzi used these 4 materials to return this flying sword. No matter from which perspective, it is a profit. Good. I agree. Xian Yunzi nodded and slapped his hand. He took out a storage pouch and placed it on the halo. The storage pouch slowly turned in front of Taoist Withered Leaf. Taoist Withered Leaf was also ready. He put his hand in and placed 2 small jade boxes. There were some flickering restrictions on the jade boxes. Xian Yunzi did not take the jade boxes. He slapped his hand and took out 2 jade boxes from his storage pouch and placed them on the halo. The 4 jade boxes slowly turned towards the Miho cultivator. Wait, at this moment, Changbai Sex Li Tsungqing shouted. Sorry, fellow Taoist Li. Taoist Yanhong smiled and said, Fellow Taoist Xian Yunzi has already made a deal with this fellow Taoist. Fellow Taoist Li should wait for the next time. Li Tsungqing snorted and glanced at Xian Yunzi. Although Xian Yunzi was a cultivator of the Lanli sect, and was not as powerful as the Changbai sect, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. Moreover, he was in the country of Xi and not the country of Meng. Why would he be afraid of him? Rolling his eyes, he reached out and grabbed the long sword in his hand. At this moment, the sword seemed to have been unsealed and was easily held in his hand. Xian Yunzi held the sword in his hand and casually pulled out the flying sword from the scabbard. With a clang, a green sword light flashed through the air. Chapter 2055. The onlookers were envious, thinking that it was appropriate to exchange for kinds of refining materials for this flying sword. But Xiaohua frowned, because this flying sword was absolutely different from the one he had encountered before. Clap, clap, clap. Immortal Yanhong clapped his hands and said, Great, the first transaction of today's auction is a success, which is quite beyond I's expectation. I hope all of you can get what you want. Next to the Miho cultivator was an old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion. He was Immortal He Ping of the Utopia faction. Seeing that it was his turn, he thought for a moment, stood up, clapped his hands, took out a jade box, and put it on the table in front of him. He said with a smile, "The Utopia faction doesn't have anything good, but I got this by chance when I was practicing in the Xianin Dreamland 100 years ago." Xianin spiritual grass? Immortal He Ping was sitting next to Immortal Shangqing of the Taiqing sect, a thin cultivator with a sage-like demeanor. "We have a lot of it in the Taiqing sect." "Yes, I know you have a lot of it, so I don't dare to show off too much." Immortal He Ping was not angry. He said with a smile, "It's just that this Xianin spiritual grass is too old, so I dare to show it to you." "Oh, then I have to take a look." Immortal Shangqing was stunned and said with a smile, "My fellow cultivator, please." Immortal He Ping made a magic art and hit the jade box. With a flash of brilliance, the restriction was removed. He clapped his hands, and the jade box floated in front of Immortal Shangqing. Immortal Shangqing raised his hands carefully and opened the jade box. He glanced at it, and an incredible expression appeared on his face. At the same time, many divine thoughts swept over. With a clap, Immortal Shangqing looked at it for a long time, and closed the jade box again. He said with a wry smile, "My fellow cultivator He Ping, I really admire you. You can find this Xianin spiritual grass that is tens of thousands of years old. But what do you want to exchange it for? If I have prepared it in my storage bag, we can do the trade now." "Yes, I need 3 drops of red dragon blood," Immortal He Ping said calmly. 3 drops of real red dragon blood. Crimson dragon blood? Taoist Master Shangqing was flabbergasted. "My Taiqing sect's guardian python dragon is only at the 7th rank. It can't truly become a dragon. Fellow Taoist, the red dragon you're talking about is at least at the deity transformation stage. How can a nascent soul stage cultivator like me obtain it? Besides, how could there be a true crimson dragon in my Donrain continent? What do you need the scarlet dragon blood for?" "Fellow Taoist Shangqing, it's I's business what it's useful for. If it's not useful, I'll just keep this profound Een spirit grass for myself. I don't believe that we can't find the real crimson dragon blood since there are Xianin spiritual herbs that are tens of thousands of years old." At this moment, a light voice drifted over. "Fellow Taoist He Ping, let me ask you something. Do you really want crimson dragon blood? What about the other black dragons and white dragons?" White dragon. Xiaohua originally didn't care, but when he suddenly heard this, he felt his entire body tremble, and even his hair stood on end. He couldn't help but think of Shang Huaming's yellow flower ridge, which was covered in blood. Hee, so it's Fairy Poyu of the Xuanyan school. I'll let you know that the black dragon blood is too tyrannical, while the white dragon blood is too cold. Taoist He Ping laughed. "I'm afraid that only the crimson dragon blood is most suitable for I. So it's like that." Fairy Poyu's face showed a trace of disappointment. "I have several drops of dragon blood. Yes, I can guarantee that it's the blood of a true dragon, but it's not the crimson dragon's. So it's like that." Taoist He Ping was also disappointed. He whispered, "I wonder what kind of true dragon blood you have." Why should fellow Taoist He Ping know? Fairy Poyu shook her head. "I can only tell you if fellow Taoist agrees to take a step back." Taoist He Ping closed his eyes for a while, as if he was thinking. Soon after, he opened his eyes and sighed. "Forget it. Since ancient times, everything in this world is difficult. I'll take half a step back. Fellow Taoist Poyu, this dragon blood doesn't have to be the crimson dragon's, but it has to be the blood of a true dragon. Otherwise our deal is off." "Wait." Before the overjoyed Fairy Poyu could nod, Qi Jianghai and Taoist Master Withered Leaf both shouted at the same time. Taoist Master Withered Leaf saw Qi Jianghai and angrily said, "Fellow Taoist Qi, why are you opposing me again? You also have true dragon blood?" "What? Withered Leaf, only your 7 possibilities sect has it. Why can't my splendid sect have it?" Qi Jianghai bluntly retorted. "This is Bright City's auction. As long as I have true dragon blood, why can't I bid?" "What? You also have true dragon blood?" Fairy Poyu almost covered her mouth. Taoist He Ping's face was filled with ecstasy. That's right. I have 1 drop of dragon blood, Qi Jianghai replied. He then looked at Taoist Master Withered Leaf and asked, what about fellow Taoist Withered Leaf? Do you have 2 drops? I also only have 1 drop. Taoist Master Withered Leaf sighed and looked at Fairy Poyu. Fairy Poyu's beautiful eyes wandered around. She had an indescribable feeling as she said, I also have 1 drop. Haha. Taoist Master Yan Hong laughed. Fellow Taoist He Ping, it seems like you won't be returning empty-handed from this auction. Hee hee, that's right. Taoist He Ping was practically beaming with joy. My only worry is whether or not the 3 drops of true dragon blood of the 3 fellow Taoists are completely different. I only need 2 drops to be similar, so the 3rd drop won't be a problem. My drop is white dragon blood, Fairy Poyu said with a smile. Clang. Xiaohua's heart jumped. Like everyone else, he looked at Qi Jianghai and Taoist Master Withered Leaf. My drop is also white dragon blood, Taoist Master Withered Leaf said with a smile. Clang. A second loud sound echoed in Xiaohua's heart. Could it be Xiaohua had a trace of doubt in his heart? However, when everyone looked at Qi Jianghai said with a smile, since fellow Taoist He Ping doesn't care about the 3rd drop, I won't say anything. Then Qi Jianghai transmitted his voice to Fairy Poyu and Taoist Master Withered Leaf. It seemed like they were discussing something. An entire stalk of profound Yin spirit grass. If the 3 of them were to share it equally, it would be appropriate. The key point was that the profound Yin spirit grass was tens of thousands of years old. Even Taoist Master Pure of the Taiching sect coveted it. They couldn't let it go. Sure enough, the 3 of them argued for a while, and seemed to have reached a temporary agreement. They clapped their hands, and took out an exquisite jade bottle from their storage pouches. They placed it on the table and flew to Taoist He Ping along with the halo. Xiaohua's divine sense scanned the jade bottle. Unfortunately, there were countless restrictions on it. His divine sense couldn't penetrate it, so he couldn't see what kind of dragon blood was inside. Chapter 2056. Taoist He Ping looked at the 3 jade bottles in front of him and waved his sleeves, seemingly setting up a restriction around him to block all divine senses. Then, he carefully removed the restrictions on the outer layer of the jade bottles, and scanned them with his divine sense. Joy appeared on his face, and he waved his hand to put them all into his storage pouch. Thank you, fellow Taoists. Who should I give this profound Yin spirit grass to? Give it to Fairy Poyu. Taoist Ku Yi and Qi Jianghai looked at each other. They didn't dare to trust each other too much, so they could only give it to Fairy Poyu first. Damn it, I've really learned something new. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Zhang Yutong and Zhang Yu he didn't hesitate to take out a sword cultivation technique for a 6,000-year-old profound Yin spirit grass, but they still couldn't get what they wanted. Now a 10,000-year-old profound Yin spirit grass has appeared, and there's even real dragon blood. Speaking of 10,000-year-old spirit grass, the first spirit grass I planted is probably tens of thousands of years old, right? Can I also use a 10,000-year-old spirit grass to exchange for some good stuff? Unfortunately, he only thought about it for a moment before he killed it in his head. There were nearly 20 nascent soul stage cultivators here. Any one of them could easily kill him. If he took out a spiritual herb that they coveted, he would be courting death. With the top-grade spirit stones in my storage pouch alone, I'm afraid I can also bid for a technique that might appear, Xiaohua thought to himself. Great! Taoist Yan Hong laughed again. The second fellow Taoist also got what he wanted, so let's take the next one. Taoist Mi Yu of the Imperial Thunder sect stood up next to Taoist He Ping. She didn't take out anything, but cupped her hands and said, I's item is a set of ancient formations with detailed records. It's called the Capital Star Formation. I also just got it, and I's understanding of formations isn't very good. I studied it for a long time but still couldn't get the gist of it. So, I'm taking it out to exchange with a fellow Taoist who's meditating on formations. Capital Star Formation? Several nascent soul cultivators couldn't help but gasp. Among them, Fairy Fei Yen of the Profound Heaven sect said anxiously, "Are you sure it's the capital star formation? That's a great formation with the power to destroy the world." "I can't be sure." Taoist Miyu looks at the beautiful woman in red clothes on the right and says with a smile, "I don't understand formations. Can we take a look?" The other two nascent soul cultivators also asked. "Sorry." Taoist Miyu shook her head and said, "I don't have any restrictions on this formation, and I don't dare to set up too many restrictions. Therefore, if fellow Taoists don't have what I want, I'm afraid I can't show it to you." "What does fellow Taoist Miyu want to exchange?" Fairy Fian asked with a smile. "As long as I have it, I'll definitely exchange it with you." Taoist Miyu laughed. "Fire essence flame crystal, wood essence flame crystal, earth essence yao milk, water essence ice essence, or metal essence revitalizing essence. All 5 are fine. I only need 3 drops. Ah? Fairy Fian was dumbfounded. She bitterly smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Miyu's request is too unimaginable. Although I've heard of the 5 elements essence for thousands of years, I've only seen it in ancient books. I've never seen the real thing. Fellow Taoist wants 3 drops at once. It seems like I have no hope." Soon after, she unwillingly asked, "Apart from these, fellow Taoist doesn't have any other plans?" "Thank you for your kindness, Fairy Fian." Taoist Miyu shook her head and said, "I am currently lacking this." Xiaohua understood. He knew that Taoist Miyu's lightning escape technique had reached the end of its cultivation. She had no choice but to use these external items to temper her body. Only then would she be able to reach a higher level. Xiaohua himself had earth essence yao milk, but his cultivation completely depended on it. He didn't know what that great sky star formation was, so he naturally couldn't exchange it with Taoist Miyu. Sun Ming and Qian Tian didn't even dare to reveal anything, so he wouldn't dare either. The other 2 nascent soul cultivators also looked at each other helplessly. But then, the Miho cultivator sitting on the second left of Taoist Yen Hong said, "Fellow Taoist Miyu, this old man has 2 drops of water element ice essence. Moreover, I know where the water element ice essence might be found. Would you consider it?" Really? Taoist Miyu was a little surprised. She nodded and said, "If fellow Taoist swears that the location of the water element ice essence is true, I can consider it. Unfortunately, this old man is not interested in your great sky star formation." The Miho cultivator said regretfully, "I don't know what fellow Taoist Fian of the mysterious sky sect, Taoist Xianjing of the Kunlun sect, and Jiang Mingzi of the Immortal Ascension sect have to exchange with this old man." Great. The 3 of them were all happy. They immediately transmitted their voices to the Miho cultivator and explained their rare items. The Miho cultivator pondered for a moment and nodded. "Fellow Taoist Xianjing's item is to my liking. This old man is willing to exchange with fellow Taoist Xianjing." And fellow Taoist. Taoist Miyu's face showed joy and reminded, "You can only tell I the location of the water element ice essence. Moreover, fellow Taoist has to swear that you won't reveal it within 100 years. I'm sorry, fellow Taoist Miyu. This old man can swear that the location is true, but it's impossible for me to not reveal it within 100 years. The Miho cultivator refused. "How about this?" Taoist Yen Hong said with a smile. "Everyone take a step back. This fellow Taoist just has to promise that he won't reveal it within 50 years. What do you think?" "Okay." Taoist Miyu frowned and nodded. "That's fine." The Miho cultivator replied in a relaxed manner. Then Taoist Xianjing passed a storage bag to the Miho cultivator. The Miho cultivator took it and looked at it. Then he passed a jade bottle with a heavy restriction to Taoist Miyu. When Taoist Miyu gave Taoist Xianjing an ancient jade pendant, Taoist Yen Hong said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Xianjing, can you see if the information recorded in this jade pendant is true?" Before Taoist Yen Hong finished speaking, Taoist Xianjing's divine sense had already entered the jade pendant. Taoist Xianjing's face was puzzled at first, then overjoyed, and finally indifferent. He waved his hand and put the jade pendant into the storage bag. Then he said with a smile, "Yes, fellow Taoist Miyu, Although this formation is not the capital star formation, it is similar to it. Thank you very much. Good, Taoist Yanhong said to the Miho cultivator with a smile. Fellow Taoist, you can send the location to fellow Taoist Miyu. After the Miho cultivator sent the message, he made a heart oath. Before Taoist Yanhong could speak, Taoist Miyu said, Fellow Taoist Xianjing, I have a presumptuous request. I don't know if you can tell me what this formation is? Hehe. Immortal Xianjing said with a smile. I won't tell you the specific name. It's similar to Dutian, but it's not a star formation but a defensive formation. Its biggest function is to resist the thunder tribulation. Not only did Taoist Miyu look regretful, but the other nascent soul cultivators were shocked. Taoist Miyu smiled bitterly and said, It's a pity that the formation of this jade pendant can't be copied. Otherwise, I will definitely have a backup plan. Taoist Xianjing said with a smile, Hehe, if this formation can be copied, fellow Taoists would have already comprehended it. Taoist Yanhong said with a smile, If fellow Taoist Miyu's cultivation doesn't break through, where would the thunder tribulation come from? Fellow Taoist Miyu has to give up this thing to be able to cultivate the thunder escape, right? Taoist Miyu also smiled and said, Hehe, City Lord is right. Immediately, Qi Jianghai of the Shanghua sect, Xian Yunzi of the Lanli sect, and the others next to Taoist Miyu, all took out their treasures and exchanged them for things they needed for cultivation. Xiaohua was stunned by these things, and he was even more fascinated by them. He didn't know when he would be able to use these magical things. When Taoist Lan Yu of the Xianlu sect stood up, the short and fat cultivator cleared his throat and said, I came to the auction in Haoming City this time to look for the soul essence of an 8th or 9th grade spirit beast. I don't know which fellow Taoist has this soul essence and can offer a price. If I have the corresponding thing, I will definitely trade. The soul essence of an 8th or 9th grade spirit beast. Everyone looked at each other, and Taoist Yanhong said with a smile, If fellow Taoist Lan Yu wants to find the soul essence of a spirit beast, I'm afraid you should go to the Spirit Husbandry sect or the Strange Beast sect. Perhaps you'll have a better chance. An 8th grade spirit beast is already at the nascent soul initial stage, and can already transform. How can there be one on the Dawn Rain continent? Taoist Lan Yu smiled bitterly and said, Even if there is one, with the strength of the Spirit Husbandry sect and the Strange Beast sect, can they subdue the soul of such a spirit beast? According to what I know, the Spirit Husbandry sect did something in the Flame Forest Swamp a few years ago. They seem to have sent out many disciples, but they still couldn't subdue that spirit beast. What kind of spirit beast is that? Could it be the soul of an 8th grade spirit beast? Taoist Yanhong looked around and saw that many cultivators were listening attentively, so he asked. The Spirit Husbandry sect didn't reveal the details. Taoist Lan Yu smiled bitterly and said, Only the 4 elders of the Spirit Husbandry sect know. I can't be bothered to find out. Actually, Taoist Yanhong hesitated for a moment and said, I guess that all of you have some doubts. May I know why fellow Taoist Lan Yu is looking for the soul of an 8th grade spirit beast? This Taoist Lan Yu was also a little hesitant. Then he smiled bitterly and said, Forget it. Since it has come to this stage, I won't hide it from you. I have a damaged spirit weapon, and I want to use the soul of an 8th grade spirit beast to repair it. The eyes of the nascent soul stage cultivators flashed with astonishment, but they didn't show too much shock on their faces. It was obvious that some cultivators had already vaguely guessed it, but they didn't dare to guess too much. Taoist Yanhong's face showed a hint of understanding, and he nodded slightly. Indeed, if you're looking for the soul of an 8th grade spirit beast to repair a spirit weapon, you can. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Qidian.com. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.